Sometimes I'm really excited when my predictions come true, but it's usually like a really bad thing, right? So like me being like, wow, yeah, I called this. I knew it. I was right. Usually is indicative of something really, really bad because the predictions we make are typically bad predictions. New York, Leticia James is threatening to seize Donald Trump's buildings in the city if he doesn't pay up. The next step in what we thought exactly would happen. They undervalued Mar-a-Lago from like $1 billion to $20 million, a property they have no jurisdiction over. Why? Because when they rule Trump owes $350 million like they did, they're now going to claim his $500 million building is only worth $5 million, and then they're going to seize it, and he's still going to owe them $345 million. Then they're going to go building by building, arguing the values are not what he claimed and they're worth substantially less, and they will seize them. And what can Trump do? The government is corrupt now. It's getting wild. People are calling for a boycott of all NY business. Kevin O'Leary has been on a tear once again saying, what fraud, where? And who's going to want to do business in New York? It's so bad, as we've already mentioned, Governor Hochul came out almost immediately and said, everyone, please, calm down. Don't panic. Don't flee the state. But now people are saying boycott all business in New York, which makes things particularly interesting. We'll talk about that. Plus, we have this bill that was introduced about a week and a half ago called the Courage to Serve. I believe it's Courage to Serve. Yes, there is a Democrat and Republican who want to give non-citizens illegal immigrants, the right to join the military so they can become citizens. It's going to get wild. It's going to get crazy. Before we get started, my friends, head over to castbrew.com and purchase Cast Brew coffee. Why? It supports the show, and it's the best coffee you'll ever have. We worked really hard. We are coffee aficionados, and our Cast Brew location is opening up within a few months. March 5th will be the first live show in the Cast Brew building, despite the fact the Cast Brew Cafe will not yet be open. But on second and third floors, sold out event, members only. So become a member at timcast.com. Y'all will get to see the building at least. And then we're going to have a private club for Timcast Elite members. You can hang out at in Martinsburg. We got a bunch of big plans. Our anti-Times Square in Martinsburg is taking shape. Martinsburg, West Virginia, taking shape. So can't give up too much information as we're working on it. But go to castbrew.com, pick up your Cast Brew coffee. It supports our efforts in building the coffee shop, building the club, setting up our live shows. We sponsor ourselves. And of course, you can get Alex Stein's Primetime Grind, 2 times caffeine. But also, my friends, in the description below here on YouTube, you can go to @Timcast Songs on YouTube and check out the promo for the new song Eyes of Advice coming out this Friday. There's everyone's favorite Ian Crossland looking shocked and disheveled. And you may have seen in the opening title card of this video, let me see if I can find the demon somewhere. He's somewhere in there. I don't know. There's a demon in this video. We can't pull him up, but you get it. And we're really excited for this release. It's an extremely intensive and very visual music video that we put together. Hard work from Kent Welling. So that'll be up on Friday. Go to Timcast @Timcast Songs on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Link in the description below because that song is dropping, I think, midnight Friday. You don't want to miss it. Also, become a member at timcast.com. Like I mentioned, we're going to have a members-only uncensored show coming up for you tonight at 10 p.m. where you as members get to submit questions, call in, and talk to us and our guest. Speaking of guests, joining us to talk to us about this and everything else, and also smash the like button, is Cliff Maloney.
Thanks for having me, y'all. Glad to be here.
Who are you? What do you do?
Sure. My name's Cliff Maloney. I got involved in the political world through Ron Paul back in 2012, so he was kind of my first introduction. And went on to lead Rand Paul's effort when he ran for president, was in charge of all of his youth outreach. And from there, got involved, took over an organization called Young Americans for Liberty, did that from 2016 to 2020. And after 2020, launched an organization called Citizens Alliance. So now I'm out there trying to create what we call a liberty state. So we're trying to go deep in a couple of these states to really create, I don't want to call it a libertarian utopia, but we don't want to do the nibbling at the edges. We want to really go in, revolutionize a state so other states have to say, hey, why aren't we like them?
West Virginia.
Do that. We're not in West Virginia.
You should be.
We are in Pennsylvania, North Dakota, Idaho, and New Hampshire. Different reasons for each of them. But one of the crazy things that's happened with us is in Pennsylvania, unfortunately, of all the states we're in, Pennsylvania has just become completely a battleground that Republicans are losing. And I'm not a party guy, right? It's funny, Phil, you asked me that. I'm like, no, I'm not a GOP guy, but I am a guy to use a party as a vehicle. And we've had this major problem in Pennsylvania where these Liberty, Rand Paul types get through the primary, and we support them at the state level. And then all of a sudden they get to the general, and the party is completely losing to the Democrats because of the new mail-in ballot process.
Yeah.
And so that's a big thing we're doing.
We definitely got to talk about that, because if, as I said, if you think there is no shadow campaign in 2024, you are mistaken. They wrote the article in Time Magazine in 2020 or 2021. They were like the shadow campaign to save the election. They're doing it now, and so everyone's asking, is it going to be Joe Biden? What's going to happen? They got a plan, but we'll talk about it. Thanks for hanging out. Should be fun. We got Phil Labonte.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I am the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary. Ian.
Hello. Thank you, Phil. Ian Crossan. Hi, everyone. And keep your eyes open for this music video. Let me know what you think. It was awesome to shoot. We shot it in a room with a green screen, but you wouldn't know that just by watching the video. Kent did an ecstacular job. Also, I want to give a special shout out to globalist_news on X, who is literally vibrating with excitement for tonight's show. I also am vibrating with excitement, Globalist News. So let's do this.
Ian sometimes just sitting there will just start vibrating.
Yeah, no joke. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't.
And then he just floats around the room and then phases through the floor.
I think that's the essence of Reiki, is you start vibrating so fast that it produces heat. Could be wrong about that.
Anyway, Serge is pressing the buttons.
Yeah, I'm here just admiring Ian.
All right.
Yeah.
Here we go. From ABC News, Leticia James says she's prepared to seize Trump's buildings if he can't pay his $354 million civil fraud fine. And I hate to say I told you so. They haven't yet done it. Okay, so it's not like the prediction has absolutely come true, but this is the first step in making this move. They could not just come out and say, Donald Trump, we're taking your buildings. They've got to go in increments. Now let me slow down. For those of you who are like, wait, what's this Trump fraud thing? What's going on with this? Well, let me help by lifting up the rock for you that you have been sleeping under and explain. Donald Trump was accused of fraud because his business valued their own assets at a number they determined, which is what literally everybody does. They didn't give Trump a trial over it. They summarily determined in a summary judgment, bang, judge says, nope, Trump committed fraud. Next question. They then said, okay, how much will Trump owe in damages? The question becomes damages to who? Didn't matter. They ruled $354 million. The next step. So my prediction here was, during this process, they claimed Mar-a-Lago, which is coast to coast West Palm Beach. Palm Beach property, not West Palm Beach, Palm Beach property. So it's water on both sides, 20 plus acres. They said it's $1 billion properties worth $20 million. That makes no sense because its neighboring properties, which are a tenth of the size, go for $40-50 million. We know they're lying. Once we saw that move, this was my prediction. In New York, they're going to fine Trump hundreds of millions of dollars. I said $250 million. I think that was what people expected. They're going to claim his $500 million building is worth $10 million or $5 million. Then they're going to seize that building, and Trump will still owe $350 million. This way, the amount they fined him doesn't matter. They will take all of his New York-based asset. They've already said he can't be an officer of a company. This is the next step in what they need to do to make that happen. They couldn't just come out afterwards and be like, Trump was fined, therefore we're seizing his buildings. We've done it, then bang the gavel. Because people would be like, whoa, wait, what? Like, give Trump a chance. No. The first thing they're going to do, PR-wise, public declaration. We are prepared to do this if Trump doesn't pay. The next thing they're going to do is exactly what they did to Trump and Alex Jones. The courts or the court officers will determine that for some reason, Trump is not paying the fine. Trump will move to file an appeal. They'll argue, no, you have to pay the fine. Even if you're appealing, we demand it be paid. They're saying that Trump's got to pay 10% of a bond, so $35 million if he wants to appeal. They're going to make up some excuse. They're going to claim Trump never submitted the proper paperwork. They're going to lose the paperwork. And then after a certain amount of time, they are going to file default against Trump and try and seize his buildings. My prediction. Panel, what say you?
How long does he have to pay it?
I don't know.
Because he's about to sell stock from this what was SPAC that he's selling? Truth Social, or he's selling a bunch of stock?
It's
Truth Social.
$354.8 million plus $100 million in pre-judgment interest.
This is so ridiculous. People are leaving New York. Businesses are fleeing New York right now. Business owners. Grant Cardone said he's not going to do business in New York anymore. Patrick Bet-David is like, get out of New York. Stay and fight, or get out, or just sit there and freeze and let it all happen to you. But keep in mind, if they do this to Trump, they're going to do it to somebody else.
So Casper's distributor is based out of New York State. And they're awesome. They are anti-cancel culture. They defend their customers. They don't back down to the woke mob, and they're a great business. And I'm like, this is a tough question. Do we divest from New York State? I looked at a bunch of different distributors. Basically what happens is we find a distributor, we get samples of coffee. It's mostly like Origin coffee, but then we come up with our own blends and they produce it for us. And that's how we distribute. Like that's how it's produced, right? I chose this place because they're a moderate district that leans slightly in favor of Trump, which I'm like, this is good. That means it's a battleground for us. We want to be economically invested in places where we have an interest, which will help us win against Democrat interests, or I shouldn't, just uniparty establishment interests, I should say. We want to create industry in areas where people are like, we don't want the woke to have control over industry. When they tell people, speak against us and you're fired, that's when they win. We want to be able to say, hey, don't cancel our contract. You will lose millions of dollars. So I'm like, this is a great place. It's in a moderate area of New York State. The guy who runs it, he's based AF. He's a good dude. He's defended us from cancel culture mobs. He's defended his other customers. He says, I don't care. I won't back down. We sell coffee. We're not interested in this stuff. And now the concern is like, do we divest? Because then we'd be leaving them high and dry. But it's a tough question, right?
I mean, there's already been some amount of businesses leaving New York and obviously other states as well. I know people in the music industry that have left both California and New York. Tennessee, Nashville is swelling still. They still have a significant influx of people because people are looking to leave the music or leave New York or LA, but they're still in the music industry and they want to be able to stay, connected. And there's obviously Nashville's, such a music mecca. And I don't blame them. I mean, there's obviously merit to the argument. Look, we need to stay and we need to fight because you don't want to see more balkanization of the United States. If you are a person that doesn't want to see the United States as an entity dissolve, you don't want to see more balkanization of people by state because then you end up with more friction between states and stuff. If you do want to, then okay, fine. But this doesn't help. Like this weaponization of government against a person because of politics, it doesn't stop with Donald Trump. These things never stop. Kathy Hochul was making these comments because people are worried. I've mentioned this multiple times on the show in the past few days or the past few times I've been on. Property rights are the foundation of your society, of your economy. If you don't have secure property rights, you cannot have a functioning economy. It has to be a command economy if you don't have property rights, and command economies just don't work. So
I would say yes. I mean, I'm not going to say get out of New York right away, but I would push them to say the companies are never going to get the signal that they need to leave, unless people are kind of giving them that feedback that is like, listen, we don't want to be tied to this state, the things they could do to you and your business. Now it's tough because it sounds like he's a good guy, right? Super based. Like you want to support the company. But I think they've overplayed their hand. I mean, do we really think that like normal people or voters see this and they're like, oh yeah, like that? I mean, what a bubble they're in.
Yeah, people do not pay attention for the most part. Like there's only probably 10% of the population that's paying attention to this close enough to even know the details. The rest of the population is just like the government wouldn't do anything, wouldn't prosecute him if he didn't do something wrong, and that's as far as they think about it because they've been brainwashed for the past decade about how bad Trump is. So all they're saying is, oh, they finally found the stuff that I've been conditioned to already believe by a decade of bad media.
Kevin O'Leary is a really great example of Gelman amnesia, which is he is an expert in real estate development. He sees this trial against Trump and knows instantly it is fake. The state of New York is committing fraud against Donald Trump and the people of New York to steal his money for political power. Because Kevin O'Leary does real estate development, he's been doing all these interviews where he's like, this is insane. There's no fraud. There's no victim. Everyone does this everywhere in every part of the world, in every city in the world. Then he goes, I know Trump has a lot of other things going on with these trials, other trials as well. I'm not talking about that. Full stop. My friend, maybe once you see how fraudulent these trials are, you realize all of them are.
Yes, some people are. I told this story last night that a friend of mine who's blatantly would consider himself like a leftist, he was telling me a few nights ago, like, it's like I think you make like a sea change. You said something about like the tides have turned, but it's like head in the sand, yeah. But when the tide comes in, you still can't breathe and you pull your head out. Like it's one too many stories. It just one on top of the other about this guy that's running for president. Now they're hitting him with this one after the last one, after the last one, after the last one. It's too many. People have become blatantly aware of this.
And it's all political pain, right? I mean, they're trying obviously to get him eventually to stand down, but we're past the sand, the line in the sand that was drawn. We are completely past it. Like there's no way at this point they think more pain is going to get him to not run, and none of this is going to keep him off the ballot. I mean, aside from the Georgia Fawny Willis stuff, I mean, there's not really any of these that are going to keep him off the ballot or keep him out of the White House because he's going to be in jail. I mean, this is, they're asking him to pay, but I think the more they see this, I'm telling you, they're in that bubble. They don't realize that normal people are like, this is some bullcrap.
I got to, to the best of my ability, I want to explain this because people are tuning in for the first time. Some people, and they're like, what is this $350 million fraud case? He took out a loan. He put up his property as collateral for the loan. And he said, my property's worth whatever, 500 million, whatever he said it was worth. Bank was like, maybe not. Maybe it's worth less than that. He's like, all right, they negotiate. They come up with a number, 400 million, whatever, a big number. Then he takes out a loan for like half that value. Then he builds another building with that. And then he pays back the loan. And he used his building. So if he couldn't pay back the loan, they'd take his property. This is what real estate developers do. That is a normal thing, and that's what Kevin O'Leary's been saying. This is what you do. You propose a great big number for the value of your property. You negotiate with the bank, and then you agree on it. Then you take out a loan for like half the value. You make the building. You pay the loan back. That's what Trump did. This is completely insane.
Yeah.
It's like the Federal Reserve, man. How can you, if you want to stay and hold the line, but if your area's getting shelled, you've got to retreat. The Federal Reserve owns this country. It's disgusting.
This is, in my opinion, so the gender pay gap is to Marxist ends. What's the real world implications of the gender wage gap? Non-negotiations. They said men make, 30 cents more for every, women make 70 cents on the dollar for every, whatever a man makes, blah, blah, blah. It's all not true. It's actually, I believe, between 3 and 7%. And the reason is because men negotiate, women don't. Men are more willing to take risks and potentially lose a job to ask for more money. So what we ended up seeing in San Francisco is they said no more negotiating. That way it's fair. All they're really saying is this job pays $100K and no more, no less. They are shutting the market out from being able to have people say, I'm the best at this job, I deserve more. Communism. Not immediately, but the end goal will be a caste-based system of jobs. White-collar job pays 100. Blue-collar job pays 50. Entry-level job pays 32. And no one's allowed to negotiate for more or less. What they're doing to Trump right now is basically the same thing. You will not be legally allowed to value your own assets. Okay? Donald Trump has a building, and he argues why he believes it's worth $500 million. The bank says, like $400 million. In their system, what will end up happening is a government appraiser must be appointed to appraise all buildings and determine their value, whatever, no matter what you think. That's it. The value is determined by what someone's willing to pay for it. And there's a really interesting challenge in things having value. If I have this chicken painting behind me that I bought for $2,000, believe it or not, someone might say, well, then it's worth $2,000. No, it's not, because I won't sell it for less than 50. Okay, but no one's going to buy it for 50. So what? I determine the value of what I think it's worth, and then I list the asset, and I say it's worth 50. It's mine. I don't want to sell it for less. If the government came and said, nope, you're lying, it's only worth 2,000. So what? I couldn't sell it for more? That's what they're saying in New York. Trump would not be allowed to sell the buildings for what his asking price is. That's insane.
And like, if you were going to take out a loan against that painting, then you would have to make a negotiation with the bank. But you could still do that.
But it's effectively a sale. There's very little difference. Trump goes to a bank and says, I need $400 million in cash. I will put my building up. It's like going to a pawn shop. Imagine you went to a pawn shop and you're like, I got a diamond ring. And you were like, it's worth $5,000. And the guy goes, nah, it's worth $100. And you were like, nope, it's worth $5,000. But I'll tell you what, $3,000, it's yours. And goes, nope, legally, you are lying and committing fraud by trying to sell your diamond ring for more than what I'm saying it is. That's insane.
Well, and the wildest thing about this, though, is nobody complained, right? All the banks got paid.
Nobody sued.
That, to me, is like the part that I think, once again, we're talking normal folks that see this story and they're like, what is going on here? And I think when Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, says that, he's like, all these interviews, you're right, Tim, he's out there and he's just like, there was no lawsuit. Everyone got paid back. Like, so where does this come from? right? It's like, where do they, and look, if they're going to throw the bookie, they're going to come up with something. But I think most normal folks are like, this is obviously a political hit job.
I don't think that you can't be informed about the conditions or the situation and the facts in the case and not see clearly that it's a political hit job. She said so as much when she ran. The DA literally said, "Hey, I'm going to get Donald Trump." It's not like it's super hard to figure out. And the problem is just that there aren't enough people that care. There's not enough people that care enough. They're just like, well, it's Donald Trump and I don't like him, which is, I mean, not that I'm a big Donald Trump defender. I think he's funny, but like, it's not like, they're just like, oh, it's fine because it's the person that I don't like. There is a whole generation of people that are not liberals. Like they have no idea about, or if they do have an idea about our government, it is a negatively influenced opinion that says that liberty means that you're going to hurt other people and being free means that you're going to cause problems for other people. It's totally antithetical to American, the fundamental principles that create America. It's against liberalism. It is anti-enlightenment. It's a mess.
Let's jump to the story from the Daily Mail. New York City's migrant debit cards are costing far more than Eric Adams claims. My friends, do you know what the cost per migrant is going to be for this debit card program?
I heard $10,000.
$10,000 per migrant.
Sick.
Wow.
I got to get down to New York, man.
I just want to say this right now as we begin this segment. My friends, share this clip. Clip this segment, this segment right now. Give it a few minutes and share it with every Gen Z person you know. And I would love to see these like Gen Z Democrats give an explanation for why it is they can't afford a place to live. They can't afford to have a family. They can't afford to start their lives the way all of the past generations did. But the city and this government are giving tens of thousands of dollars to these non-citizens who just got here. It is what is the estimate? Somewhere between $80,000 and $100,000 per year spent on non-citizens. I would say this right now. See, maybe the game plan is the big ask. Give illegal immigrants $100,000, and then when they come out and say, okay, how about we give everyone in America $100,000? People are going to say, well, it's better than the illegal immigrants, and then you get universal basic income.
So they're going to per immigrant, they're going to give them $80,000 to $100,000 a year. That's the estimate.
I think it was $88,000 spent on the immigrants because they're not giving them cash, but they're giving them luxury hotel rooms.
I would imagine in the late 90s, this would have caused national riots if there was an influx of illegal migrants that were getting $100,000 a year, or even for inflation, $47,000 a year. People would be out on the street in droves. This is
since the late 90s. There's been like 25 years of graduating classes of people that have been indoctrinated with the ideas that this is just perfectly fine, that borders don't matter, that an economy can sustain an infinite number of people that come in, that you can print money at will and just go ahead and print it out to people and they'll just that won't affect your economy. These are things that are taught in schools. People don't come up with these ideas on their own. Like you've got 25 years of at least 20 years of colleges teaching mumbo jumbo in humanities departments so badly that it is infiltrated into the regular sciences. You have, and the case in point is there is not a gender binary, which there obviously is.
Eric Weinstein's even buying into that now.
Exactly.
That was
I
wild.
saw that.
Yeah. Which, I mean, and it's like, look, to get to the very basics of the fact that it's gender binary, there are two kinds of gametes. There's big ones and little ones there's big ones that sit there and little ones that move. That's men and women. That's it. Now there's people that there's anomalies that happen, but that doesn't change the fact that there are men and women.
And this is
that's just biology.
This is where the breakdown has begun. I mean, Eric Weinstein, he's got this viral clip going around where he was being interviewed and he says, it's not true that there's only two genders or sexes because intersex people exist. And this is the exact same logic of 2 + 2 can equal 5 because sometimes it's 2.3. And it's like, well, 2.3 is a definitive number, 2.3. Intersex people are definitive people. They're intersex people. That doesn't mean there's more than one sex. But even Eric Weinstein has begun to espouse this. It's like, what is he giving up?
It was shocking. And it was on Chris Williamson's podcast, and Chris pushed back. He's like, well, you say there's more than two genders, but he's like, do you mean sex? Are you talking about more than two sexes?
He tried to give him the out,
Yeah,
and he didn't.
And Eric's like, I don't understand it, but I believe it. Are you kidding me? Why would you believe something you don't understand, dude? You're a scientist.
Yeah, that was crazy. The Colin, I forget his last name.
Wright.
Colin Wright, Swipe Right, did a great. He's at Swipe Right on Twitter, on X. He did a great response to Eric. He went through the specifics of the thing that Eric was confused about. Offered to talk to him about it and stuff. And I'd love to see Eric reach out to him. It's a very easy thing to understand, and Eric is way too smart to.
Well,
that's the problem with intelligence, man. Without wisdom, intelligence is a super villain. It's a nasty thing to have intelligence with no wisdom.
Have you guys ever met someone who is like factually smart but couldn't connect the dots?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Right. And that's that. I've met a handful of people in my day where it's like you ask them who is the author of that book about Ray Bradbury. What was the person? Oh, this. Like, what's 17 times 47? Look, bang. And then when it comes to connecting the dots between different areas, they have a hard time understanding. And that's what it feels like with Eric Weinstein. He's a really smart guy. He knows math. He knows all of his facts and details. And then when someone proposes some kind of argument, he gives a mangled, confusing social response that makes no sense.
I don't, and like it's like not knowing when to stop talking and let's start listening. That's a big part of having intelligence with no wisdom.
Let's go back to the main story though. Yeah. Back to immigrants, criminal aliens being given money.
How do you stop it?
This needs to be sent to, I'm gonna say it again, every Gen Z person, and just be like, I don't care who you vote for. I literally don't care who you vote for. Don't complain to me. Don't complain about boomers. Don't complain about millennials if you're going to vote for Democrats knowing they're doing this.
This is going to be I'll spoil alert here for the whole 2024 election, okay? Republicans will spend $5 billion versus the Democrats $5 billion, about $10 billion this cycle. Democrats will say the Republicans have a war on women, right? They want to take us back 50 years, anti-abortion. That'll be the whole message. I mean, wall-to-wall TV coverage. This is the Republicans' message. Now, I agree with it. I think we got to close the border. We got to figure this out. But the more they do this crazy stuff, the more it's just going to play into that, and it's going to create a wedge issue. I mean, it's already there. Turn on Fox all day. That's all they're showing, right? They know that it's the border wall. It's the border wall.
If you are showing that, if you are Gen Z, you should be on TikTok. So here's the strategy: go on TikTok. Do not disparage migrants as individuals because TikTok will ban you in 2 seconds. But the workaround is to criticize to question. Why are they being given up to $100K per year in value in luxury hotels while we can't afford to eat or sleep or pay rent or start families? Ask that question. Make that go viral.
And I think we're going to pull this up, but they're talking about giving them citizenship through military service. Like, are they just grooming the next generation of fighters to go fight in the Ukraine? And then but the problem is if you have foreigners that don't understand the ethos of your nation in the army, they're way more willing to turn on the people.
We'll get into all that stuff for sure. But the reason why we're doing a segue with this story is we're talking about New York being politically corrupt, going after Donald Trump. Yeah. How? Multiple fake court cases. A 30-year-old claim of rape, which was actually rejected by the courts. They held him liable for, I think, sexual, something like, I don't know if it was sexual abuse or something like that.
Was there evidence, any evidence in that case, or was it all testimony?
My understanding is there was no evidence at all.
He said, she said, that's it.
But even beyond that, like there's no evidence.
And 80 million? They
83 million. Just bang the gavel. So you have abject corruption in New York government, not just in going after Donald Trump, but giving taxpayer dollars away in one of the most heavily taxed states to people who aren't even citizens of this country.
I think a problem with New York is that it's too centralized in that city. The whole state is sucked in by that town, New York City. And maybe California has a similar problem with LA and San Francisco. They just absorb the power and they make decisions for the rest of the tens of millions of people.
I don't think it's as pronounced in California because there's multiple cities that have similar politics and stuff, whereas New York City is such a behemoth comparatively to the rest of the state.
You think it's savable? I mean, do we really think New York City's savable? I mean, that's why I say
yes, because that's where Wall Street is.
Yeah. But I mean, savable, but like, how long would it take?
Is it worth the fight, right? Like when we're talking about divesting and asking these people, hey, does it make sense to move?
I mean, look, old New York was once New Amsterdam, right? It goes way back.
Right.
And there was a period where it was a great city, and then it fell into disrepair. In the 80s, it's late 70s and the 80s, it was awful. And then you got Donald Trump, real estate revitalization, Mayor Giuliani, things started getting cleaned up. Whether people liked it or not, the policies that were being enacted ultimately resulted in New York becoming very safe, and now it's falling apart again.
Yeah, Hurricane Sandy was nasty. Manhattan got flooded. That is not a safe place to live on a basin, on an island, land. Like, if you try to get off that island in a rush, I doubt it, because good luck if you try.
Well, I mean, people that live there kind of know, like, you kind of go into it knowing that, like, if there's like some kind of like massive like natural disaster, you're kind of stuck. Everyone knows that it's, you know, you're walking out, you know.
You're on an island.
Yeah, you had to walk. Everyone had to walk out when they lost the power a couple years back or whatever.
If everything starts breaking down and you are in New York and you're on Manhattan Island,
you're doomed.
Yeah. I guess when you say savable, what do you mean exactly savable?
I guess what I'm saying is it worth the fight, right? Is it worth it? Is this the pendulum swings back 3 years from now, you know, and the people have had enough, they're fed up and they're like, you know, we need to fix this? Or does it take 20 years?
Does it become
and if I'm the guy in New York City, right, I'm getting out. Like, I just think, you know, go to a red state, go somewhere you can build something. And I just think that, you know, who wants to wait around for, they're not coming in our direction. It's still, look at this stuff, right? They're still going in the opposite direction towards insanity. So it's not even like we're at a pause and it's like, all right, where do we go from here? I mean, there's a new story every day about just the crazy stuff they're doing. So I just don't think it's worth the fight. And I do think, you brought it up earlier, you know, the national, I shouldn't say divorce, but like, you know, are we going to have a kumbaya moment, or does it make sense to get out? I mean, I think eventually you're going to have states that are going to have to push back.
I would advise anyone living in New York City to leave the city for a short period of time, because I lived in New York City. I didn't leave the city for 2 years. I lived in it because you can do everything you need there forever. And it smelled so bad, but I didn't realize it till I left. Yeah. The brake dust, it's these fine particulates of black, whatever it is, carbon that goes through the it's so small, so fine that it goes through the alveoli in your lungs right into your bloodstream. Like, I don't know the exact metabolic thing, but it's nasty, way worse than a lot of other forms of carbon waste. Yeah. And it is just, you'll find black dust on your brake dust on your like windowsill and stuff, and like the people throw fish guts on the ground outside after they get done with the fishmongers in the day. It is nasty there. Get out for like 2 weeks and then go back and then make your decision.
You ever walk through Chinatown?
Yeah.
Open air.
The smell on Houston Street, dude. It is just, you'll see stains on the sidewalk where they throw the fish guts every day.
I got no problem with the smell of fish. Like, it's food.
It's the putrefactive bacteria that's disgusting.
Dude, welcome to the world. Like, people who are selling fish, there's going to be the smell of food.
They dump it into the sewer. They're not supposed to do that.
This is the thing, like...
He's just dogging New York City out.
Man, it looks cool.
The thing about Fear Factor that always got me is that a lot of Fear Factor was, today's challenge is, you will eat food. And I would be like, okay. They'd be like, intestines. I'm like, I had intestine tacos. I had pig intestines.
I'm all about crazy.
I had tongue. So I get it. They did weird stuff like eyeball, but like, that's food. Like, people eat that stuff.
But what happens is they dump it on the curb and into the sewer. And I don't think they're supposed to. And then it just sits there, and the putrefactive bacteria, the putrescine and the cadaverine just feast on that stuff. And that's what causes like putrescence, basically.
They are not supposed to. That is correct.
Yeah, I think it's against the rules, but they're just like,
let's segue to where this all goes, baby. Bipartisan Congress duo unveil bill providing expedited citizenship for immigrants who enroll in the military. Let's go, baby. Pat Ryan and John James introduced the Courage to Serve Act on Friday. The legislation addresses two challenges facing the U.S., an influx of migrants looking to work, build a better life for their families, and contribute to our country, as well as a recruitment crisis. Here we go. I'll give you the quick Cliff Notes version. Our border is porous. Our country is corrupt. The interests of the people are not served. They are now trying to recruit people who are not citizens into the military. What will this be? The military-industrial complex and the law enforcement, federal law enforcement and military apparatus of the executive branch will become some kind of international police force accountable to no one, as it already is for the most part. It will be comprised of people from all over the world with no allegiance to any one country, and you will have, in essence, a true world police.
Yeah, I said this on the last segment. I'll say it again now. The disturbing thing about having foreigners join your military and make up a large segment of your military. They don't understand the ethos of the United States. They don't understand the First Amendment. They don't get it. They weren't taught it. That they're going to be way more willing to turn on the people and violate the Constitution if they're ordered to.
So if you have a military that is actually, has integrity and lives up to military standards that militaries have held for, years and years, hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years. I think that you can have foreigners join your military and get an expedited way into the country, but you have to trust that your military loves your country the way that your military should. If your military is teaching the people that join the military that your country has been oppressive and that it's not worth fighting for, or that it's bad, and it's all of the things that go along with having a critical view of the United States, a critical consciousness, whether it be a critical racial consciousness, critical gender studies, or whatever, but any kind of Marxist power dynamic where the United States being in a position of power is actually considered an oppressor. If you're teaching your military that, and then they're releasing them into the country, it's literally just one more avenue doing the same thing that the colleges are doing, which is pumping out ideologues.
The U.S. government allows non-citizens to enlist. They do. They get sent to Ukraine in active conflict, World War III. They come, quote, home to the United States, where Republicans then argue this is unconstitutional and we can't do this, creating World War III vets protesting in the street. And the history books talk about how these World War III veterans were denied their rights and their bonuses from the U.S. government.
Yeah, but here's the best part about the root problem, which is they're struggling to recruit people, right? Why? Well, step one, we villainize masculinity, right? It's like, anybody that's a soldier is considered, a scumbag, or, however you want to say it. They've just pushed away from any masculine effort to promote. And then two, they got rid of them all during COVID, right? They said, oh, you didn't get the jab? See ya. They literally got rid of some of the best of the best, right? To just completely deplete. I know
so they could open the door to non-citizens.
Fighter pilots, bomber pilots, some of the best folks that we have. And we said, oh, you're not getting the jab? See ya. You got to go.
But it opens the door for them to go, oh, no, let's bring non-citizens in and create an international military force that is accountable to no nation.
Yep.
The United States effectively has become a null space on the world map. Every country has its borders, has its laws, its jurisdiction, whatever. The U.S., imagine a world map, erase the borders of the United States and put landmass. And there's all these other countries all over the planet, but the United States is just nothing. Anyone can come. There's free money. It's all yours. The next generation be damned. And you can even join the global empire's military force. And you know what? I think they may find themselves in Ukraine. They're now, who was that reporter who was like, asked Biden, do the Republicans have Navalny's blood on their hands? Like, just the most psychotic question. Don't be surprised if, as this escalates, they say we're in a recruitment shortfall. We need to send people to deploy to stop Putin, who's going to invade Poland or whatever.
Another option could be maybe we don't have troops in 120 countries. That's a part that we were joking about earlier, but It's like, the real conversation of what is our role in the world, right? And foreign policy is, unfortunately, this uniparty complete agreement in Washington, D.C. It's, sacrilegious to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't have all these wars going on. And that's the one thing I always give Trump credit for. Right? Like the no new wars thing, I think it's a much bigger deal than people think. Hell, Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize and started 7 wars? It was crazy. They're laughing at us.
It was the not George Bush.
Right.
Peace Prize.
The post George Bush world. But I just think that, you have this situation where it's nobody wants to have that conversation. What is the role of the U.S. government? This effort, Bring Our Troops Home, you guys familiar with that group, Defend the Guard? They're running these state bills called Defend the Guard. And I love it because I'm always trying to find what is the state angle to push back. And when you have this kind of crazy uniparty push, and I'm with you that they're trying to get to this point where we're weakening, and it's kind of these globalists, I feel like, pushing it, you need a couple states to pass this. And all it says is our governor cannot deploy our guardsmen unless there's an actual declaration of war. Now, some people say, oh, it's semantics, the whole declaration, we're never going to do that again. But what it does is if you look at the numbers, what is it, 60, 70% of the people that deploy to these wars, they're guardsmen. Mm-hmm. They're not active duty. And so I think you got to find things like that to battle back with because I agree with Tim. I think it's going so quick that if you think you're going to fix it, by getting the right guy in the White House, you got so much more to deal with layers below that.
I do think the biggest course of action is get Trump in the White House, start changing out and firing personnel. You know, when the big tech guys, not like Silicon Valley, but like Elon and his crew and GigaFund, when I saw, I went to a party where a bunch of guys were talking about ways to like win the culture and their plans, and they really believed taking Twitter was that path. And they weren't talking about buying it. No one was saying that, but they were just like getting rid of the censorship. And I was like, it's cultural. I do believe big tech is the path towards, you know, restricting and controlling culture, but we need a massive cultural shift in a certain direction. But I got to hand it to him. Elon Musk buys Twitter, and boy, has the landscape shifted dramatically. It's not just Elon Musk's effort. It's going to be everybody speaking up. But I think a lot is similar to voting for Donald Trump in November. Not a perfect guy. People are complaining, oh, Elon Musk is banning this person or that person. Why aren't I allowed to say this? I'm like, yeah, because there's no perfect scenario for anybody, but it's certainly improved. Alex Jones is back. Voting for Donald Trump is going to be like, oh, there's going to be a lot of stuff. This is what drives me crazy with the libertarians. They're like, Trump did this and did that. And I'm like, bro, look, if my choice is the Democrat uniparty warmongers, bomb Iran, or Donald Trump, no new wars, how could you ever be like, by all means,
100%.
We'll sit here and be like, oh, Trump did bad here, and I'm going to vote for him with a smile on my face. And so I think changing all of this comes from us, state level, city level, culturally. That's why we're doing the coffee shop. That's why we're doing music and skateboarding. It's what we know. But I also think voting for Donald Trump is the big hit.
I love your concept, defend the guard. I mean, giving the states control of their own National Guard is a great step as well. And Tim, what you just said, there's no perfect way. In fact, there's really no great way forward. There's a lot of bad ways forward, and we got to pick the least bad way. The way we've had is the liberal economic order. So I want to ask you, Cliff, military bases all over the planet. Since 1949, American-led liberal economic order, the rules-based economy is what they call it. Not very good anymore. These American military bases, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, wherever else the hell we've been dominating and destroying things. I say, I'm complicit. But like, what's the next step? Global technocracy, centralized control of these technocrats. Like, how do we parse this? How do we transition away from having American military bases all over the planet as global police? Or should we? And would it be better? Would it be worse? What do you see?
Well, I think it probably has to get worse here. I mean, we don't have a Javier Milei leading the country, right? It had to get so bad that they were able to bring somebody in and say, hey, we need a different direction. You've got the Democrats who are going to continue to spend their money on all the domestic spending, the welfare, illegal immigrants, anything they can do to virtue signal. And you've got the right, who's going to just continue to fund the military-industrial complex. And of course, we know who pays for it all, the Fed, right? And I don't think you fix the Fed. I don't. I worked for Ron Paul when he passed Audit the Fed, H.R. 459. I'm the biggest believer in ending the Federal Reserve and replacing it with absolutely nothing. But you have to do the spending. The spending is the only way you get it under control. And I don't know when it gets bad enough that people feel it through the inflation. They feel it through the cost of goods and services. But to me, there's that uniparty holy alliance. And until we can expose that with local pushback, local alternatives to all of what they're doing, I don't think you fix it, but you've got to figure out a way to tackle the uniparty's obsession with both domestic welfare and military spending that has really no oversight.
If we do it, like if it gets so bad that we can't do the spending anymore, and they're like, we just can't do the spending now, so it has to change. What then if we get invaded? How do we pay the troops? Or do people just have to fight for no money like they did in the Revolutionary Wars?
Yeah, I think they didn't fight for no money.
They didn't get their money when they came back because they were promised a lot, and they had to put their farms on hold while they went and fought. When they came back, their farms were in foreclosure. Bunch of guys.
Well, now we're saying they're not even going to have loyalty to the country, so you're not going to pay them. They don't have loyalty to the country. That's not going to be a war that's going to end well for who's ever on that side.
And a lot of people like to reference the Roman Empire. And them bringing in mercenaries.
Yeah, that was the end of it. I mean, I don't know. I would love a historian that can walk us through decade by decade.
We got to get a Roman Empire historian for the culture war.
That'd be sick.
That seems like the most important thing to do, considering everyone wants to know about Rome.
Right.
Well, let's.
Good. No,
I'm going to jump. We're going to segue. We have this story from Salon.com. Ladies and gentlemen, Jon Stewart is back, and the left is really angry. They called him a danger to our democracy. I absolutely love it. Jon Stewart mocks critics, deeming his Daily Show return a potential disaster for democracy. Why? In his opening segment, when he comes back, He lightly jabs at Trump passively, but the whole thing is dedicated to Joe Biden being completely incapable. He does mention Trump is old too, but with a special focus on Joe Biden. He's got a new show out as of yesterday, and he ribs on Tucker Carlson quite a bit, which I believe is rather poorly done. I'm not gonna tell him his show's a danger for our democracy, but boy, does he still absolutely roast Democrats. He highlights like Keith Olbermann. Look at this. Olbermann says, after 9 years away, there's nothing else to say to the both sides-ist fraud Jon Stewart bashing Biden, except please make it another 9 years. Me, I watched and I saw Jon Stewart say things that were incorrect or just like really poorly written about Tucker Carlson, and some that were really funny. And I said, by all means, John, welcome to the conversation. Please keep talking, and I will use your show as a launching point to debate the ideas. When these people called out Jon Stewart says on his show, it's as the old saying goes, democracy dies in discussion. Absolutely roasting the left for refusing to engage in a conversation about what's happening in this country. Yeah. He then does go on to do some form of like pathetic mea culpa where he's like, but let me make fun of Tucker Carlson for you guys. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of very poorly done. Like there's one point of the show where he's like, how would you show me how to submit to fealty, Tucker? And then it shows Vladimir Putin say, after World War I, Danzig was not restored to Germany, but it became the city of Dansk in Poland. When Hitler said he wanted it back, Poland said no. Hitler then invaded. And Tucker goes, of course. Jon Stewart then freezes frame and says, of course. And then everyone starts busting out laughing as if that was not a statement of fact. It's just the weirdest thing. Stewart claimed that what Putin said was Poland was at fault for starting World War II. When the clip they showed was Putin saying the Treaty of Versailles gave Danzig to Poland as a free state. Poland asserted control over it, calling it Dansk. Germany said it's historically German, give it back. Poland said no. Hitler said, I declare war. It's very, like, much more complicated than that. But it's in, like, the Holocaust Museum. I pulled up the articles, like, is this, what is Jon Stewart ragging on him for? But outside of that, what I can say right now is, guys, let's take Jon Stewart. I say we just, John, welcome to the club. You're allowed to have bad ideas. You're allowed to be wrong. We're all wrong. Let's have a discussion, and then you can go on your show and talk about how crazy these crackpot Democrats are.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Jon Stewart is the fact that Jon Stewart is poking at Donald Trump a little bit, but like really going after Joe Biden. It's reflective of the fact that like Joe Biden is the president. Like Donald Trump may be running, but he's not currently in a position of authority at all in the government. It makes sense that you would go after the people that are actually in power, first of all. Second of all, it is abundantly clear to everyone that will even look that Joe Biden is entirely incompetent to be incapable of being the president and actually doing the job himself.
What's crazy is that Stewart's like a 70%er. I mean, he's with them 70% across the board. Now, I call him a true liberal, you know what I mean, a Bill Maher type. But like what I'm saying is he's only off script a little bit, and they do not allow that. No. They do not allow that.
There's a meme I saw, it was pretty good. And it was a bunch of blue people, and there was a blue guy, and he was like, I agree with all of these things. And so I get these badges, and it shows all these different causes. And the next one is him going, maybe that one I'm not so sure about, and said child sex changes. And then they were all like fascist, white supremacist, and they taking all your badges away from you. It's like you deviate. It's a cult. Like I saw the Serfs, our good friend Lance was ragging on someone because they saw a bunch of pride flags in like a Walmart, like in some department store with some big box store with like a grill, and they were like, all I want is food, like for heaven's sake. And I'm like, dude, in Frederick, Maryland, they're flying a pride flag at City Hall. Like that is a flag of an ideology. Now, if there is a historical American flag like the Gadsden flag, I'd be like, oh, whatever, I guess. That's like a state flag for Virginia. I think it's their license plate, so I get it. But a rainbow progress pride flag, they even have in one store an eagle on it. I'm like, it's a cult. And they're flying the flag of a cult. If they were flying a flag of like Islam or any other religion or Christianity, I'd also be like, it's kind of weird that they're doing that. They've basically found a way to fly a religious flag while arguing it's not a religious flag.
100%. Right. It's a religious flag. And the reason why you can't step out of line a little bit is because I don't know of any religion that's like God says a little sin is fine. Right. Like it's like if you step out of line at all, like sin is sin to most gods that I've ever heard of. Like usually it's like either if you sin, it's like all the sins are bad and they're equally bad. So to step out of line at all as a progressive or whatever, you're offending the religion. You're stepping out of line. It's unacceptable.
There are venial and mortal sins. I believe it's Catholicism. I could be wrong. It's in some form of Christianity. Venial sins are like, oh, I lied to my neighbor, whereas a mortal sin was like, oh, I had sex with my neighbor's wife. Like the worst.
I know
you ate
there's
meat on
definitely
Friday.
passages that say that to God sin is sin. I know for a fact that the way the Christians look at sin, they say God says sin is sin. There's only one sin that they won't, or that I think Catholics that God doesn't forgive. I think forgive, and that's blasphemy of the Holy Spirit, I think. But I know the Christians are like, sin is sin. They don't care, or God doesn't care.
Venial's Roman Catholic. The part that kills me is their religion is defeating Donald Trump and keeping power, right? And so this is why the 70%ers don't work. Because if that 30% is going to help Donald Trump, or let's say hurt Joe Biden, to them, that is the cardinal sin, right? That is, you are going against, look at everything we've built. Look at everything that our code says we have to do. You're now not with us. So get in line and sit down and shut up. And I just think that I mean, it's refreshing. I mean, I hate that I have to like compliment Jon Stewart, but you do. Like, we have to compliment these people because everybody else is just in lockstep.
No, but so look, I did a long segment. It was like 40 minutes where I talked about this. I pushed back and I criticized Jon Stewart. The difference between the modern version of the left, they won't do interviews. They say that Jon Stewart is a disaster for our democracy. He should go away for 9 years. No more shows. How dare you offend us? And then whatever our side is, you saying you don't like him, you don't want to defend him, but okay, you will. Me, I'll say I think he's funny. His jokes about Tucker were funny, but the underlying premises were bad. And so I'm like, the thing that really got me is he calls Tucker a liar, who says he's lying about what he does. And I'm like, John, you do exactly what you're accusing him of doing. You're producing a show that operates under the guise that it's just comedy, it's not real news, when in fact you are creating jokes under the premise of the underlying concept is true, and now we will mock the concept. It is a manipulative tactic. I have no problem with it. I have a problem with people being wrong and lying to people, but John's allowed to be wrong. I'll just correct him. But this is what The Daily Show has always been. Here is thing that's true. It's so silly, like joke. Insert joke here. And then everyone laughs. John Oliver does it. The premise is when he says Tucker Carlson is lying about his job, the joke is how he's presenting it. Haha, Tucker Carlson said a thing, and he's teaching me now to lie about what I do. Underlying premise, we all know that Tucker's a liar. This is how they program people. Mm-hmm. He is doing what he's accusing Tucker of doing. And you know what? That's fine. We will have that debate. But you know what? There are a lot of people that I think are good people that are economically on the left. Jimmy Dore is obviously a great person. He's rad. He's an anti-establishment guy, but he's an economic leftist. I think Kyle Kalinski's an honest guy. I think Crystal Ball is very honest. I just think they're wrong about a lot of things. And that's absolutely okay. And we'll have those debates. And they're not scared to go to people's shows and have those debates. Jon Stewart, I think, will also, but I'm not so convinced. We'll see. I'd love to get Jon Stewart on the culture war and actually have that conversation with him and see what he really thinks about all these issues. And I think it'd be fascinating. I think he'd be willing to do those interviews. I don't know that I'd be able to have the pull to get him on a show, but I think he's the kind of guy who'd be more willing to do it than most other people on the left.
Agreed.
Yeah, I guess you would consider him on the left. He's really kind of middle of the road, dude.
Bro, he used to be the liberals' liberal.
Right.
But he was anti-war. He was like really.
They all were.
Yeah, it was George Bush, dude.
Do you think that the left is
Stephen Colbert was all about the war. And he was joking, but he would constantly say how great it was.
Are you of the opinion that the left is anti-war and the right is pro-war still?
No.
So then,
Okay, so Jon Stewart, the show comes out in the 2000s.
To be honest, I don't understand his economic politics, so it's not fair for me to claim. Because left and right are kind of economic.
Jon Stewart is a liberal's liberal, and would always he would present his show as we are the rational, reasonable people, and look how absurd these Republicans are. And that was 70%, right? 60, 70% of the time, it was just overtly right-wing bad. But sometimes he would say, like, he praised James O'Keefe several times, and he mocked journalists. This is the clever way you manipulate. Hey, I'm a reasonable guy. Bill Maher does something similar, but I think Bill Maher knows that he's saying things that are not true because the logical gaps just don't make sense.
Right.
I think Bill knows what he's doing. I think Jon Stewart's just better at it.
You mentioned John Oliver. Did you guys see?
Oh, that guy is a liar.
It looked like he was bribing Clarence Thomas to resign.
Let's pull it up. Let's pull it up.
This is nuts.
We have this story from Mediaite. John Oliver offers Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas $1 million a year to resign. He also offered him this really, I think it's a Class A RV. It's a bus, basically. Beautiful. 4 TVs, master bedroom. Those things can run, like $500,000 or more. Very beautiful machine. They're not fun to own.
If the wrong...
They're not fun to own. Like, the bus he offered him, no. I don't think they got a picture of it. Maybe it's in the video.
Well, I mean, Clarence Thomas is pretty well known for his, he's got an RV and he likes to drive that thing all over the place.
I know. Look. But I'm saying, like, just as an aside, like, you would not want this.
Right.
No.
Parking's a disaster.
That's an H3.
Yeah, pre-planning everything. Look, you would want it because if someone gave you $500,000, you'd sell it, you take the money.
Right.
Or if you got a tour or something, you want to take 7 people.
Great.
On or 9
yeah, that's absolutely great. And then you got to pay for the staff. And then they've got to do logistics for how they travel from city to city, where you're parking, where you're dumping your feces. Otherwise, you could end up like Dave Matthews Band, and they dump it all over someone's boat in Chicago downtown. What an amazing thing to be known for, by the way. But anyway. The main story is John Oliver's trying to pay Clarence Thomas to resign. Clarence Thomas said, I will leave once I do my job as bad as the media.
If a conservative, if the wrong conservative made that same joke, they would literally get arrested.
They're
and they would try to,
or if he made this joke
disagree.
25 years ago, people would be up in arms about it. You can't bribe a Supreme Court justice to resign even as a joke. It's not a joke. It's
you are
literal...
incorrect, sir. This is not a bribe.
What is it?
What is it?
So I have Cornell Law School
Solicitation?
pulled up. No. Bribery involves an official act. A public official, and it goes into detail, explain what a public official is, and yes, a Supreme Court justice is, to influence any official act. You could argue resignation is.
Of course.
But it's not. Legally, he's not affecting government. He's quitting. The point of the bribery law is you want Clarence Thomas to rule in favor or against something that benefits you or hurts someone else.
Are you telling me that you're of the opinion that nuance would matter if it was pointed at the right?
So if someone went to the president.
I'm saying it's not legal bribery.
Oh, okay.
But you are correct about the nuance would not matter. However, that being said, with everyone saying John Oliver tried to bribe a Supreme Court justice, he has 2 principal defenses to any claim against him. The first being he's not trying to induce a public official to violate a lawful duty. You are allowed to quit. Quitting is not influencing government. I mean, it is, but it's not in the sense that Clarence Thomas would affect law or precedents. He would just stop doing whatever it is he's doing. You could argue it's bribery, fine, but John Oliver has the biggest defense of, we are a comedy show and have no legitimate offer for Clarence Thomas. It is scripted. It is listed as scripted. It is listed as entertainment. And that being said, ladies and gentlemen, here's the episode of The Whitest Kids You Know, where I cannot say what they say.
Oh, man.
In this segment. Trevor is his name, right?
Yeah, rest in peace.
Rest in peace, man. He was a funny guy.
Hilarious, man.
It's on YouTube, I know, but I, as a political commentator and show host and journalist, will not say this. But he goes and talks about something you can't say about the president.
So funny.
He says it is illegal to say that you want to bleep the president, and then he says once again it's illegal to say I want to. You get it, the president. He says it's also very illegal to show a detailed diagram of how to do it, and then he does.
It's so funny, dude.
So are we going to sit here and be? It's hilarious. Are we going to sit here and be like, he should have been arrested for making these threats?
No, I don't.
It's a comedy
I think
show.
the real common sense here is John Oliver's joking around. But the legal bribery is if you solicit someone. I'm reading it right now. Same thing. Cornell Law School. A means of influencing the actions of an individual holding a public or legal duty. Resigning is influencing his actions. If he took the money and resigned, that would be scandalous.
Yes. Yeah. And so I think there would be an interesting legal argument about whether or not it's officially bribery, because quitting is not the same as changing law and policy. You know, you get my point.
Maybe not as egregious, but in a way,
I
would be
don't
sickening if
think
something like that
it's
happened.
bribery to be like, you should, like, imagine this. Here's why it's not bribery. I'm just sorry, it's not. John Oliver made a job offer to Clarence Thomas. That's not illegal. That's just it. If he said, Clarence Thomas, how would you like to be a spokesperson for the new John Oliver show? Pay $1 million a year. We'll give you this beautiful trailer. Of course, you'd have to quit your job at the Supreme Court to take the job. Is that illegal? Is that bribery?
No.
And that's exactly the point. All he's saying is, we will pay you a contract, but you have to quit in order to do it. You can't call that bribery.
I'm reading about the definition of bribery now. I have no interest in pinning bribery on John Oliver right now. I don't think that's what.
I'd love to if he did it.
I mean,
if he committed
if
bribery.
he came out again, it was like, no, I'm serious. I'll give you the $1 million. I'm very serious. If you resign, then yeah, let's in with a bribery charge.
No. Look, if Thomas Massey was like, I'd love to build these debt clocks for a living, and I said, I'll pay you $1 million a year to make dead clocks. I mean, you have to resign from your position, but sign this contract with me, quit your job, I'll give you $1 million. That's not illegal. That's not bribery. You can hire people. You can compete with public. Imagine that this was bribery. You would never, the private sector could never be allowed to negotiate with public sector employees ever again.
But
it would all be bribery.
If part of the negotiation on the private sector was that they had to resign in order to receive the deal, it's kind of up to the person.
But you have to. You can't work for both.
But it's up. Well, if it's up, I would think it would be. I don't know if the legal recourse would get a judge in here, but I would think it would be on the public servant to offer a resignation, not that's part of a deal. Like, hey, take some money to resign.
I get your point. Oliver is explicitly saying, quit your job, I'll give you money. He's not saying, like, I have a job for you. Unfortunately, you'd have to quit. That being said, I think legally, if you were like, we can't make that distinction. We can't say you can never go to a politician and offer them a contract. And I'm sure John Oliver, they got lawyers. They went over all this. Mm-hmm. They know exactly what they're talking about. They know the game they're playing. And people are screaming bribery right now. And it's probably exactly what they want.
Right.
Because there's nothing there. In fact, the contract Oliver has might literally be a writing position on the show. He doesn't say that in the clip, but it doesn't matter. He can always be like, the contract we have is for him to work for us. He would have to resign from the Supreme Court to do it.
If it's a public official and it involves money, I think getting to a point where it's bribery is very difficult, because if both of them wanted it, if it was an actual mutual, hey, we wanted to do this, there are tons, all these public officials have to do financial disclosures, right? So they have all these rules in place. So I'm with you. I don't think it's bribery. I think you just have to be creative about how they do it to be careful not to trigger something that would, call for some legal action.
And then if some young guy now comes out and copycats John Oliver and offers like Mayorkas $7 million to resign, is he going to get hit with a bribery charge?
Okay, right. I would not be surprised if Democrats did that.
Right.
I would actually be surprised if they didn't. That being said, the law says being induced to or omit to do any act in violation of the official duty of a person. Resignation is not an official duty. Like, they're not supposed to quit. If he were to quit, it would be outside of any of his official duties.
Well, it's not even public policy, right? You have policy, you have decisions within the role. So yeah, you leaving is literally the opposite, right? You're like saying, hey, I'm not going to make any more decisions. Now, we would see that as political because it's like, hey, you got a Republican appointee or a Democrat appointed judge, right? So we think of it as like, oh, it opens a seat and all this political ramification. But the reality is, no, they're not. He's not asking him to vote a certain way on one of the major cases that's coming to the Supreme Court. He's saying, hey, just take a vacation early, get out of here.
He's asking him not to vote on the upcoming things.
That's technically where you get into bribery territory.
Yeah.
And so this is, I believe, leans against bribery, but could be because this is where it gets crazy. I mean, law is not so easy sometimes. Oliver is saying, you've made people's lives worse, resign. You're right. He's basically saying, I will pay you if you don't vote on the upcoming electoral issues. You could argue that is...
If he said it that way, right? If he said it that way, where it's like you show the intent and the motivation to not have him vote.
But that could be it. I mean, he says in his clip, you have made people's lives demonstrably worse. Resign, we'll give you $1 million. And so that implies he is trying to pay the Supreme Court justice so that he does not vote on issues. And that could potentially be bribery. It's difficult because I'm sure their lawyers went over all of this. They know exactly how they worded it. They know exactly what their defenses are. But Ian, the most important thing, of course, everyone understands is there's no way the Democrats will go after John Oliver.
The foreign-born John Oliver.
The foreign-born John Oliver, who's...
I got no hate for you, John. Just don't do it again.
I mean, I've got general disdain and contempt for the man. He is a liar, and he is stupid. Basically, all of Jon Stewart's cohorts are awful, stupid people.
I think Colbert's a great actor, but he's off the rails. I mean, really
he's
far
got
gone.
something wrong with his brain.
I didn't even like the Colbert Report. I thought it was so stupid, disingenuous. He pretended to love war. He would say things he didn't believe, and it was just, egregious the way I felt like he was feeding the war machine. I don't get that guy.
He's as rabid and maniacal. When I talk about like being in line for the team, to me, he is the poster child of the people that like once they dug their heels in, they're in. And everything he does is about never being accused of being on the opposite team or helping the other team. And it's just like, I mean, to what end? He's like a rabid dog, so focused. And I can't watch him. I can't even if I even see like a 30-second clip or an ad come up, he's just so fake that like you almost feel bad for him. He's so bad. I don't think his comedy's good. I don't think he's good. I don't think he's a genuine human being. And I'm a pretty easy critic, right? Like I don't go hard against people, but it's just so transparent with him that he's a fraud.
Like, what does he have to be stressed? He's so rich. Why would he be fake? It's like fake stress on his show. He's like faking. I guess that's virtue signaling.
He's trying to connect the blue collar worker. I mean, it's just so.
I don't think that he's trying to connect the blue collar worker at all. I think that the whole Comedy Central politics genre or whatever, whether it be The Daily Show or John Oliver or whatever, that always comes across as extremely condescending to anyone that's outside of the political correct narrative. You know, if you have an opinion that is not, again, we talked about this earlier when this segment started, I think the narrow allowable opinion, the Overton window that you're allowed to have your opinions in when it comes to the left, it's incredibly easy to get kicked out. He's extremely elitist. He speaks only in the narrative that the elite wants to project. And that goes for all of the political shows that are on Comedy Central. They're pushing a narrative. I mean, there's all these connotations of motivation, and I think that it's just the matter of they're not particularly intellectually curious or particularly interested in pushing back because they get no benefit out of it. They just want to go ahead and give the narrative so that way they can get the what's it called, the clapter. It's not even real laughter. It's just the applause because you said the right thing.
Hold on, it's not even clapter. It is a light flashing on above the audience saying, "Please clap."
It's owned by Paramount.
But that's the thing. It's the same narrative, and this is just reinforcing the narrative that you get from colleges. It's the same narrative that you get from the news. It's the Daily Show takes the news and makes it digestible for people that don't really want to watch the news, which is again why we have a population that is so misinformed. Because there's a significant number of people in America that consider themselves better than average politically informed because they watch Comedy Central.
It's owned by
specifically because they watch Comedy Central. It's like, I watch Comedy Central. Jon Stewart told me for a decade what I should think, so now I'm politically savvy.
And then when challenged, he goes, "No one thinks we're real news. We're a comedy show."
Dude,
and people genuinely think the underlying premise of the jokes are true. He'll show a clip where someone will say something like, "Well, I just think that we should have open borders." And then Jon Stewart will make a joke about it. The premise being that clip is a real factual thing, but he'll pull it from its context. So, you know what I love about these people? You could say something like this. I was hanging out with Ian the other day and he said, "I think the border should be open." And I said, "You're crazy, Ian." They then take the clip of me quoting Ian, apply the quote to me, and then run jokes about me. That's what they do. And that's why there are so many stupid people in this country. It's one of the reasons.
It's owned by Paramount Media Network, which is owned by a company called National Amusements, which has like 10% of Paramount Global, but it has 77% of the voting power. I don't understand that. And it's a private company.
They could be on the board or something. That's normal.
Yeah, it's some private company that owns Paramount Media that owns...
What's the name of the company again?
National Amusements.
They own a lot of movie theaters as well.
Yeah. Let's jump to this story, my friends. We have this give, send, go for Dylan Brewer. If you don't know who he is a young man who, in Florida, of all places, was turning left at an intersection where they painted a rainbow pride flag on the street. And as he was turning, it would appear that for some reason, he held his brakes down as he accelerated, burning out and leaving a skid mark on the flag. For this, he has been charged with a felony.
Oh my
Felony. Now, hold on. This is not a bad news segment. It's a good news segment. So far, the Give, Send, Go for this young man with a goal of $100,000 has raised $27,010. I will absolutely take credit for 10,000 of those dollars. When I first saw this story, there was someone else who actually got charged as well a few years ago. He ended up getting, I think, probation and community service. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
He took the plea, right?
He took a plea deal.
Yeah.
There is no circumstance, none, where anyone else, anywhere, burned out as they made a left turn and were pulled over and arrested and charged with a felony for it. It's never going to happen. You could be looking a cop dead in the eyes and go, and skid your tires and then peel out. And if you do get pulled over, which you probably would not, he would write you a ticket and say, reckless, whatever, $150 ticket, don't do it again. A felony charge. Mm-hmm. So when I saw the story, it's very obvious. It's a blasphemy law.
Yep.
They are upset over his blasphemy. So I said, I'll gladly help with his legal defense. Now, I have no interest in communicating directly with him or his legal team in any way. I am but an internet whinger. I complain about things online. But when it was Sovereign Bra on Twitter, I saw him post the link to this. I said, absolutely. And I immediately put up, I think it was like midnight, and I'm like laying in bed. I can't remember. I was watching, what was I watching? Beekeeper or something? I don't know. That was a good movie. I liked it. It gets kind of kooky. But then I was like, I see it and I'm like, I'm giving this dude money. I was like, I'll put up 10% of this, 10%. And maybe he needs more and we'll give it. We'll see how this goes. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to communicate with him or whatever. Like I followed him. He sent me a message. I said, just whatever. I don't want to be involved, but I will send money. If they post updates saying that he needs more money or whatever, I'm going to send it.
Dylan, let me talk directly to Dylan because you didn't see this clip. Dylan, call Anthony Sabatini. Okay, Sabatini is an America First patriot. He's the attorney in Florida that sued during all the COVID stuff. He's running for Congress. Great guy. He will do a pro bono. I want you to get a hold of this guy, Anthony Sabatini. He's one of the best out there. But he saw this. He's wow, I saw it because Sabatini tweeted it and was like, I want to represent this guy. I don't think they've connected yet. But
we can make. I think when I say we, I think this conversation, this clip will make that happen. I think Dylan Brewer here should get in trouble. And what, a $50 ticket?
Well, I mean,
fine for
noise violation, reckless driving. You could hit him with like $700, $800, $900 and fines.
Wait, maybe. How about a warning? Hey, don't skid your car when you're driving on the road. Yeah. I think it is fair to say this. If a community wants to paint their road, they're allowed to do it. I think it's obvious he intentionally burned out as he was turning. And that's kind of a mean thing
Vandalism,
to do.
Maybe you could call it.
If I painted a Gadsden flag in my intersection and everybody was super excited for it and some leftist burned out on it, I would say, dude, you clean it up. Okay? We all like that we painted the Gadsden flag. You clean it up. I wouldn't say send him to prison for a felony charge and take away their right to vote, own a gun, and travel the world. That's insane.
Felonies ruin people's lives. Like they make your life, a significantly, greater ordeal to do just normal everyday things.
Look at the picture though. It's the funny thing is there's a bunch of other skid marks already on it. Everybody is doing this. They hate the thing. Mm-hmm. So the real issue is it seems like the community absolutely despises that they did this. In which case, for what did he do? He drove on the street. You know what's funny? He goes to court and they say, you're accused of intentionally burning out on this pride flag. And he goes, oh, it was an accident. I accidentally pushed down both the gas and the brake when I was going, and then I realized it, and I'm sorry. And what are they going to say? No, we can prove you did it on purpose.
Prove the intent.
Prove the intent.
They might not actually be able to prove the intent, but I don't have any faith that they wouldn't just say, well, it all boils down to the judge now. If the judge is politically motivated, you're doomed.
Well, you know what else?
Why hasn't
you know what? You know what else is your attorneys, right? If you have attorneys, in some of these battles, they get blown up, right? We think the attorneys come in, it's all legalese, right? I've been through some of these battles. Like when it becomes politicized in the courtroom, you better have attorneys that understand that you cannot apologize because that's their whole job, right? These attorneys are like, how do we minimize this? This is why the guy that did it before took a plea like an idiot. It's like, no, they're obviously trying to make an example of you. So if you don't have attorneys that are ready to go to war, if you don't have people who are ready to like really dig in and realize this is political, you're working with the wrong team. I've been in tons of these battles, like locally or people coming after me or different organizations I'm with. If you don't have attorneys that are looking for the offensive way to move forward, they're just going to make an example of you.
Yeah.
You know, it's why we don't apologize to these lefties that try to cancel people. Because the second you give them an inch, you're not getting anything.
Yeah, they're saying you admit it, that proves it.
That's it.
Yep.
You got to dig in. And those attorneys are out there. But I'm telling you, as the landscape changes, whether it's criminal, whether it's civil, whatever it is, you have to find attorneys that understand the activists. If they don't understand the activist side, you're in trouble.
Where's Ron DeSantis? He could right now just be like, get this, no, rubber stamp, done, gone.
Like a pardon?
Pardon, clemency, done, whatever. Before there's anything, he could just literally say, nope, it's over. We're done with it.
He should.
He should. And the other guy too. The other guy was a bit more egregious. The other video, he's like actually dragging and skidding along. This kid turns left and skids as he's going left. That's it.
It should. I mean, the judge should throw it out with prejudice, right?
Yeah.
It should be tossed out with prejudice. Just because of the fact that they're overcharging. If they had come with reasonable charges, misdemeanor or something like that, you got to clean it up, fine. But like a felony to ruin the kid's life, and he's a kid. That's another thing. It's not like you're gonna ruin this kid's. He's like what, 19?
19.
19. And so like let's go ahead and destroy this kid's whole friggin' life over blasphemy.
I think what Ron DeSantis does here will determine his true colors. Was he actually trying to do good and help people, or was it all just please vote for me for the next run of my career? And now that he's no longer going to be president, now that he's termed out for governor, is he going to stand up and say, I'm going to do the best I can with the time I have left, or is he going to be like, I'm done, I don't care?
He'll do the best.
Will he?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, this has been going on for some time. Why did I have to give $10,000 to a legal defense fund when Ron DeSantis could just rubber stamp his clemency?
Well, as they say, nothing moves unless it's pushed. And I will put DeSantis in this category. He is a politician. I do like him. But I think it's probably going to take a lot more exposure. It's probably going to have to become more real. But yeah, I mean, I wish he would have came out yesterday, right? Yesterday was the time to come out. But I think, unfortunately, he'll probably need a lot more pressure before he says, oh, this is politically worth it for me to make a statement and do something.
Dylan Brewer.
Yep.
Yeah, Dylan.
It's so insane that they painted a pride flag in the street in the first place and got mad that someone drove improperly over it. I'm just like,
it's on the road, by the way. It's not like it's off the road.
Yeah, it's not like someone threw paint on a paint or oil on a painting or Campbell's tomato soup on like some work of art
or the Constitution.
Right.
Yeah, really. What happened to those guys? Did they get felonies?
Right.
For defacing public property?
It's a blasphemy law.
It is.
This is where we're at. And in Florida, of all places. And I believe he's got a Trump flag on the back of his truck.
Yeah. There was a flag there.
Delray Beach, yeah.
Delray Beach, yeah. Where's that at?
It's like by Boca, right? Like down.
Really?
Am I right about that?
I don't support people carrying around political flags and committing crimes. I do not support that. That's not good. But
I have absolutely no problem with this kid having a flag, and he did a burnout.
Just north of Boca.
Not a problem.
Yeah. Oh, it's like Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale. Yo, that's absolutely crazy.
Where's it? Delray?
Yeah, north of Boca.
There's so many better ways to deal with something like that you don't like than defacing it too. And
no, I agree. I mean, I don't like people destroying other people's stuff because, like, this is what the far left does. They go to people's houses with American flags and they steal their flags and destroy them. Like, no, that's messed up. If somebody wants to put up a rainbow flag, fine, whatever. My question though is, do the locals actually support this? I bet they don't. No. I bet if you go door to door, people are gonna be like, I don't like it. That's why there's other skid marks already on it. They didn't arrest the other guy who, look at this, a straight skid mark straight across. They didn't arrest that guy. Yeah. Absolutely insane. This is where we're at.
Yeah. And we talk about how this is a cult ideology, how it is a religion that's infiltrated the whole of society. This isn't just in the government, as much as we see it, in the government all the time. We also talk about the fact that it's in HR departments nationwide, that it's in your schools. There is a whole new ideology that is infiltrating and replacing the old ideology that the United States had. And people are still refusing to acknowledge that there's even a cultural revolution happening around them.
Did you see it coming in 2009?
2006 is the first time that I thought about it. That's why, or it was 2005. That's why I called the fall of ideals the fall of ideals, because I was like, something has changed in the way that people perceive America. All stuff that I used to think was cool. Like I used to think that like integrity was cool. Like I thought that chivalry was cool when I was growing up. Like I thought that stuff was cool. It's like, that's what like a dude does. Like dudes are supposed to hold themselves to higher standards and like masculine, those kind of masculine, like positive masculine things. As those things became old hat, isn't that cute? It was people were looking at them as old fashioned and stuff like that. And I was like, this is going to change things in the world. And that's why I called the fall of ideals the fall of ideals. It was the things that made America America had started to become, silly and passe, and we don't need those ideas anymore.
I feel pretty.
Stuff, so.
I graduated high school 2009, and I feel pretty lucky that I feel like I got pieces of it when I went to college. I went to school to be a math teacher, so you wouldn't think it would be too many of the humanities, but I feel like I got a piece of it. But I think I probably got out like 2013, 2014, before. Like I had to do the diversity walk, right?
What was that?
So I worked for the housing department, University of Pittsburgh, and what they would do is we would come in, we were resident assistants, and we would have to do these walks for training where, if you're a white man, step to the 5-yard line, like you're on the goal line, right? This is 2013. I mean, this is not.
That's wild.
It's 2013. It's like the first time I'm like, and you're like, man, what are we doing here, right?
Yeah.
If you're a white man, step to the 5-yard line. If you have 2 parents at home, step another 5 yards, right? And they would go through all the privilege that you'd have, and then at the end they'd say, okay, now look around, and this is the leg up you had in the world, right? And it's like so much of this stuff, it's like, well, hold on a second. The 2 down from me is this black girl who's on like the 5-yard line, but she, her parents both make $1 million a year. I come from the suburbs of Philadelphia, blue collar. My dad's a felon. Like, how does this work out?
Yeah.
But I think I just, like, you're asking him, when did it turn? Right. I think college, like circa 2014, 2015, is when it started to get, overtly aware that everybody had to be in kind of this doctrine.
It was right before Trump or right at the beginning of the Trump.
A lot of people make the argument that the universities are where the woke stuff started. And that is incorrect. It existed in the universities. Several different ideologies existed in the universities. I know this because I was also doing guest lectures and hanging out at various universities in 2011 into 2012. And there was some of this and not a lot of it. But around this time, the reason it becomes prominent can be exemplified in a video with Professor, I believe, Nicholas Christakis was his name. Is that the guy? He's arguing with some students who say a university is not, it is supposed to be a safe place for us not to learn, or something that's a fact. It's
Spaces.
Yeah, it's from a long time ago. And Nick Christakis, I believe his name is, was arguing that there's going to be challenging ideas and it's going to be offensive ideas at universities, and the students argue otherwise. The implication here is the students bring the ideology into the universities before they were there. So how does this begin? Social media. We saw, for the LexisNexis data, every single country saw this. So what is it? Is there an effort to expand the ideology? There is. But there was also an effort to expand white nationalist ideology that failed. Why? Advertiser sensibilities favored the civil rights narrative over the white nationalist narrative. And so, and those weren't the only ones. Those aren't the only ideologies that were pushing to create footholds in social media. Everybody was trying to make articles and argue things. There was the libertarian explosion in 2008. And then libertarian websites like Mike.com shifted into wokeness because it made them money. The safe advertiser bet was civil rights, social justice, so they all ran with it. Kids who were 10 years old in 2008, born in 98, are seeing nothing but police brutality, racism, sexism, anti-gay, all that social justice stuff on Facebook, on YouTube. And then by the time they're starting to enter high school, by the time they're starting to enter university, they have lived a life with nothing else but this because of Facebook, because of all the social media platforms. They bring it to the universities. The professors tell them, no, no, no. And they say, shut your mouth. And then the people who run the university say, the customer is always right. The customer is the child.
You know why I never thought of this until right now? You're so accurate in that I could never figure out why this push started between 2015 and then kind of around Trump, where the universities started to actually put into place, these speech zones, right? And they started to, I guess that's what it was. They started to react probably from the students creating that environment, and then they affirmed it, right? I mean, I fought when I was running YL. I mean, we won over 55 lawsuits with some of these free speech groups, but I don't even know if that battle's worth it, because it's like you said, if the root of the problem is they're coming in, and then the university is just adapted to say, hey, we're going to create these safe spaces, and everyone needs to be comfortable, and you're not supposed to have real dialogue, discussion, and debate because you might be offended, right? That's the one thing.
The customer is always right.
And if the customer is offended and they're saying we come here because we don't want to be offended, I never put that together. That's what I'm saying. I'm thanking you for that, because the pieces of why did the universities all of a sudden adapt to create all these, that turn of these speech codes and these free speech zones, and it makes sense.
It was a Halloween costume. This is what happened. Someone wrote something about like, don't wear offensive costumes. And then he pushed back saying, you can wear whatever costume. I think that was basically what happened. And the students lost it, started protesting. Universities are businesses. They want to make money. They have customers, young people. The young people show up and they protest. Okay. If you own a hot dog stand and you have a bunch of regulars, they show up every day and they have parties, and every Friday, 50 people show up and they have a hot dog eating contest, and you're like, this is fantastic. Then one day they're refusing to buy anything. They're angry because we started serving pickled onions. And they say, so long as you serve pickled onions, we will not shop at your store. The business owner says, throw them out. I don't care about that. We're losing all our customers. This is what the universities did. The students were protesting, complaining, and they said, we don't want to lose all of that free money.
The mob. It used to be that if you wanted to protest, you had to print up flyers and walk around person to person and hand them out one by one, or go door to door and put them on a door. Now you click a few things and 700,000 people see your protest. Like, the mob Borg mind has formed around this internet, and it's adapting really fast to whatever.
Well, and the market gets no signal, because who funds all this, right? Who funds these customers going? All these super, great loans from the government with Fannie Freddie. I mean, like any of these programs, it's like there is no market. I've never seen a product that the quality of the college degree, like the piece of paper is just plummeting and the price is skyrocketing. Like, there's no market indicators anywhere. It's the most corrupt, just like no signals are given in that. I don't know where it ends.
Well, I think it's like
it's the.
I don't want to overuse the word communism.
The loans are why that's happening. Yeah. If you had a business that sold cheeseburgers, and people slowly stopped buying your cheeseburgers, guess what? You would need to increase the cost to accommodate the bills. We talked about this with Bud Light. When you have massive volume, you can reduce the cost dramatically and say something like, we're going to make 1/10 of 1 cent per beer, because we sell hundreds of millions of them, we will make enough profit. But as the sales start dropping dramatically, you've got to increase the cost of each beer because you still have fixed costs. Your factories still have property taxes. You still have employees you got to pay. You no longer have the volume. If people aren't buying your burgers, you might have to raise the price. Now, here's the thing. Then nobody's going to buy them ever again, and you go to business. That's normal. But what happens when you have guaranteed loans? The value of the product drops dramatically, the cost starts going up, and the government keeps guaranteeing that people can buy your product, so they do.
And I don't know if it's like foreign corporations and countries are like, let's seed this communistic groupthink into the American culture, and then we'll fund it with our global bank, or if they're like, yo, they're doing communist groupthink, let's jump on this and make sure that it keeps happening. I don't know, and I don't know if it really even matters. Like, looking back, I don't know if it's going to matter. Just this emergent communist group mind mentality of like, we, us, our.
But that loan situation, I feel like people never give it the weight that they should. The current situation, I mean, if any of you guys work with young people that are, my nephew's applying now for this, FAFSA, the free application for student aid or whatever that everybody fills out. It is insane, not just how the incentives don't match the market, but how reverse it is. Yeah. You want your parents to have a lower credit score. Mm-hmm. That's how insane it is. The Parent Plus loan, which is what all the schools push these kids to do, if your parents don't qualify, you don't get the loan from the school, the feds back it up.
Wow.
So the incentive is that you want your parents to have a credit score that's in the tubes, and then you get the loan at a lesser rate. It's guaranteed by the government, and the incentive's completely backwards.
Yeah. I wrote a paper in my final year in university actually about this. I have an economics degree about this exact thing, saying this whole school thing is a huge bubble. Like the cost of the textbooks I was paying for when I first went to university, when I was leaving, there was just no difference, and yet I'm paying another $600 for this book. For what reason? There's no value.
Here's the best part. To all those that are listening and may find themselves as a young 18-year-old who may be entering university soon or wondering whether they should, what's your cost per year for university? Someone want to Google search average cost per year for university was like $10,000?
No,
more than that. Well, I mean, yeah, but 40, I don't think is average. I think that's like
if we're including community college.
Okay, let's just do universities specifically. Did you look it up? I didn't think it was 30 or 40. I thought that was like higher end. Nobody?
5,700,
36,400. The average cost of college in the United States is $36,436 per student per year, including books, supplies, and daily living expenses.
Wait. The average cost of tuition, the average cost of out-of-state students at public colleges comes to $23,630 from the 23 to 24 year.
That's tuition. You brought up all the costs.
I'm not talking about all the costs because that's like kids in school.
Right.
I'm saying if you are an 18-year-old and you're like, I want to go to college, on average, it looks like you'll be spending about 20. You may be spending 30,000 if you want to go somewhere nice. I'm not going to give you any advice. I would just like to propose something very simple. What do you think would happen if instead of spending $23,000 every year for 4 years, let's just call it $100,000. You bought $100,000 worth of Bitcoin and then sat on it for 4 years. Okay, well, I can tell you this. 4 years later, your worst case scenario is you lose everything. Bitcoin evaporates for some reason. I don't think it's very likely based on the institutional support for the asset and whatever else you want to call Bitcoin. And with El Salvador's holding on it, let's just say not even Bitcoin. Typically, if you were to take $25,000 per year for 4 years and put it into, how about this? A 4% savings account.
An Apple account.
When an Apple account, yeah, they're 4.5. You can do better than that though with I think Ally does better. After 4 years, who wants to do the math? How much money do you have? Okay,
Sounds like you've made about $9,000 on your investment.
4% compound.
4% compound is way more than $9,000 in 4 years.
20%.
24,000.
Yeah, and because you're doing 25. Okay, here's the best part. If you were to take that 25,000 and put it into a university after 4 years, what do you have? Negative $100,000 and a piece of paper nobody cares about.
Also,
congratulations, you
from
played
my
yourself.
experience, it was challenging to work while I was in college. I was trying to do theater and do shows at night and do class at the day. I was like, I can't do all three. I've got to pick two. Fortunately, my parents are like, well, if you get a job, we'll give you some money. And they help me.
I just need to say this, okay? After 4 years, you will have negative $100,000 plus interest.
Plus opportunity cost that you could have spent that, but that you have already kind of calculated.
Flat out, all I'm talking about is the money. After 4 years, you have negative $100,000 plus interest. Whereas if you just took $100,000 and, I don't know, bought gold with it, you'd have a pile of gold in your living room. And you'd be like, I have gold. $100,000. I'm not, you do whatever you want. I'm not giving you financial advice. Me, I don't know, 20K, 40K down payment on a property, rent it out through a management company, make $200-300 per month after all the costs. A portion of that goes into the account for emergencies. After 4 years, you own 4 houses.
The problem is these kids can't get the money unless they go to school. It's a school loan.
That's not true.
Well, they might be able to take out a bank loan, but you can't take out a federal loan.
You can't get the debt unless you go to school. Don't take the debt. Would you rather have $0 or minus 100,000?
I think that people will look back on I think this breaks in the next 10 years. I think it has to. I don't know how it happens. I think it goes 10 more years and people finally, wise up. But I think people will look back on this 10, 20, maybe 30-year period as like the stupidest financial decisions that were ever made by the 18 to 25-year-old crowd. And why do they do it? Look at I went to public school,
because their parents told them to. His society told them to.
Everything tells them to, right? The literal reports that schools put out for their government funding is about college preparedness, right? How many of your students went to a higher ed institution? That's the number. So when you link all the funding to that, when all of society, the pressure, all the norms, when you're a 16, 17-year-old kid, by the way, I don't think it's like, they're prowling on 17-year-olds no, people make their own decisions. You're 18 years old, make your own damn decisions.
Yep.
But I do think it all adds up to this idea that you really, it is the worst decision I ever made. I went $75,000 in debt. You're exactly right. I left with a piece of paper. Sure, I got a degree to teach math in the state of Pennsylvania. Great. The things I could have done over those 4 years to build skills, to start a company, to invest in something. I mean, it's part of that system, and I fell for it. And I'm trying to push my nephew right now to say, hey, don't fall for the same trap. Go get your damn welding degree. Pick up a trade.
Part of the problem is kids are told go to school and learn, get a degree, but they're not told what to do in school. They're not told what to do. They're just like, oh, go to school. And then the school's like, well, you can do any number of these blah, blah, blah things. And most kids don't really have a great grasp of what they really actually want to do for the rest of their lives. So they do something that looks like they might be interested in, or they go and get a liberal arts degree, which is like not really a degree in anything that you can do.
I can attest to that. Yeah.
Like you get out of school and you don't have any skills that are valuable in a market, right? Unless you have unless you went to school for something specialized, you come out with just a generalized degree. So you don't know, you don't have any kind of direction. You should go to school because there is something in particular that you want to do and you need to learn how to do it. You shouldn't go to school because, well, high school's done and I guess I'm supposed to, and everyone says if I go to school I'll get a good job. I don't know what I'm going for. I don't know what job I'm looking for afterwards, but people say go to school, you'll get a good job. So I don't know, I guess I go to school and when I get out, apparently a good job's going to fall in my lap. But there's no reason to believe that at all.
And that's the monopoly on the mindset, right? Is that you have to do that. Think about it. Why have alternatives not popped up? Why do we not have all these alternatives to higher ed? Praxis, there's a group, Discover Praxis. I've seen them. I think they do great stuff. You get in, it's like a 10-month program, and they guarantee you a salary. It's like 40 or 50 grand when you leave. And they just teach you hard skills, how to design things, how to build things, how to put things together, but like applicable skills. Why aren't these other things popping up? Because the money's there. It's guaranteed to each of the students. The universities are not reacting to it. But that's what I'm excited about. What alternatives come from this complete bubble of higher ed, not just with money, but with woke ideology? It's got to happen.
This dude,
we got to go super chats. We are way late. Nice. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, share the show with your friends, and head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member, because the members only uncensored show is coming up at 10 p.m. And we got a couple really spicy stories pertaining to medical issues. You're going to want to see this one. It'll be interesting. Big breaking news coming up. But first, let's just read what we got here. Tyrant's Blood says, first again. You've nailed it. Tim Jake says, Snowden gave the Russians 1.5 million pages of information classified up to and including top secret code word. He's a traitor, not a leaker or whistleblower. I don't know that that's true. You want to
he also didn't just give it to the Russians. I
don't think the implication is that he gave Russians anything. I don't think that's true.
I don't think that is true. I think that he's referring to the stuff that Snowden gave to Glenn Greenwald and stuff. So
right.
I think that that's what he's referring to. I don't know of anything that went specifically to Russia. I think that he's just saying that Snowden released stuff and Russia got it.
Ready to Rumble says, if George Carlin were alive today, he would be waving a Palestinian flag and shouting from the river to the sea, change my mind. George Carlin got on stage and cited every single racial slur known to man and then proceeded to call black comedians the N-word. I don't know that I agree with you. He certainly was an anti-establishment guy. I don't think he would be a Trump supporter, but I think he would be very anti-establishment populist. Very free speech, and more importantly, he's not alive today, and the reason why you know who he is, he's a product of his generation. Probably why he's not alive today, and so it's just not applicable, I guess, that someone of his world would be in a modern leftist context. It would be so foreign to him. Seamus Coughlin has a really great cartoon about this, where leftists bring World War II soldiers from the past to the future to help them fight Nazis. And the World War II soldiers are racists. They oppose gay marriage. Come on, it was the 40s. What do you think's going to happen? All right. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, it's not woke versus unwoke. That's small thinking. All they do results to one end. What do you mean? Mandates, lockdowns, government decides worth of assets, all U.S. education, language control, etc. End of day, it's communism. Agreed. Yeah, that's what Jon Stewart said. He said the reason why Tucker Carlson is praising Putin is because the modern, it's not Cold War anymore. It's woke versus unwoke or anti-woke or whatever. So Vladimir Putin has to be a good guy. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. We rag on Putin all the time. We call him a bad dude all the time. But just because Vladimir Putin is a nasty guy doesn't mean the U.S. should be involved in Ukraine or that I care what happens to the east, to the Donbass region. None of our business. And also Putin is bad. One of the worst. Okay. All right. David Glass says, culture or regular guest, Dr. Ken Berry, MD, keto carnivore doctor, and silvopasture farmer. Food is cultural and political. That's actually a really, really good idea.
Yeah. Farmers. Huge.
You should definitely do a culture war show if we get like a dietitian person on.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah. Luke would be good too because he can complain about seed oils while eating a Big Mac.
Yeah, maybe
again.
he'll fly up for a couple days.
You guys, Joel Salatin's ever been on here?
I love him and no.
Food Freedom.
Great guy. I love his work.
Let's have him on.
He brought my dad. My dad does landscaping. He brought my dad to libertarianism. He gave some speech once, like at some Ron Paul event. But he's really, really insightful, great guest, Joel Salatin.
Right on. All right. Darkerby says, hi, Tim. Been listening for 1 year. Can you shout out my GSG Fallen Marionette? I'm looking to move out to Martinsburg and build a family. It's also linked on Twitter under Fallen Marionette. It's still Twitter. I'm really excited for what we got going on in Martinsburg. The first event is going to be March 5th. Depending on how it goes, the goal is to have a live show, Timcast IRL live event, members only, 50 seats, general membership. You have to buy the tickets, but you have to be a member to even buy the tickets. Then you buy the tickets. They're $100 each. I think we're doing $100. And then elite members will have special access. So basically, second floor of the building is a private club. Elite members can come hang out. We're going to have staff. Like the reason why it's $100 is there's going to be a staff member there. Like we'll probably have to have 3 staff members or more. There will be drinks and food and snacks stocked that you can just take and eat whenever you want. And of course, if like one person just seems to be eating everything, like the rest of the members can be like, hey, dude, you ate all the chips. And it is what it is. But we want to build a social club. We want to have that social club available in places that are not like New York, in places where people are more based AF. And then we want to do this once a month. I'm just thinking about how cool it's going to be to have people driving in from different parts of the East Coast and flying from wherever it may be to come to this location, and it will start to revitalize Martinsburg. I know the people of Martinsburg are super excited at the prospect, and we're also going to be building the anti-Times Square. Very difficult project. Very difficult. We're going to need help. We're going to need financial help. We're going to need labor help. We're going to need everything. But the ultimate goal is to transform the downtown strip of Martinsburg, West Virginia, into a parallel economy physical hub where you can go to Cousin T's Diner, you can go to Cass Brew Coffee, you can go to Papa Jack Posobic's Pizza Shack and get pizza, and it's a family restaurant with a salad bar and all that stuff, and just all of it. Luke Rudkowski's Health and Wellness, no big old no seed oils in the top. How amazing would it be to walk down the street and all of your favorite personalities and the things they deeply care about are being provided for you? Like Cousin T's got the pancake mix. We're super excited for that. I'm hoping we have that. I hope within 10 years, it's a fully done thing. It's just fully done. And the number one rule of it is no displacing the locals. The local businesses and the generational businesses must succeed more than any of the incoming businesses.
Maybe, just maybe, we can make the roads out of graphene.
I don't think we can do that.
We just got to make a graphene strip where you put it in the bitumen in the roads.
Where we're going,
last 3 times longer.
We don't need roads.
All right. Let's read some more. The Shipbuilding Observer says this is irrelevant to the show, but cilantro being banned would be a small price to pay for ending congressional insider
training. Got me on that, by the way.
I am one of the 98.2%.
Me too.
That was a 3-pronged political attack.
So Tim put out a tweet. It said, "Do this to vote for this good thing."
We'll do it. There was 3 phases to this. I tweeted, I have an idea for a law. It will be illegal for members of Congress to trade stock or provide information to third parties for the purpose of advantaging them in trading stock. Do you agree parentheses, see Addendum A for more information. 98.2% voted yes. Addendum A was the following tweet that said, Addendum A, this law shall also make cilantro illegal.
I love that.
I then quote tweeted it and screen grabbed it and put, shock poll from Timcast finds 98.2% of voters want cilantro made illegal. There was 3 phases of this. 1, to prove people want congressional stock trading banned. The second was to show you what the laws are actually doing to you. When you think you're moving on something good, they actually snuck something in there to screw everyone else over. And 3, how the media manipulates what actually happened to trick people with false results. So I was very happy with the results of that one and very happy with people being like, damn, you got me.
Yeah, I was not happy with myself for clicking yes.
You clicked yes and then you read banning cilantro?
Yeah.
I got you!
I didn't read the addendum.
You got me too. I was like, man, that was good.
But I think it might still be worth it, actually.
It said, see Addendum A for more information,
see
and
it.
people did not care.
I clicked yes, and I want to get rid of cilantro, so I don't know what the hell y'all talking
You
about.
animal. It's so good for you.
But I was thinking about it because I was reading about the making soldiers, non-citizen soldiers and all that. So I'm like, they're so full of it. And then the pollsters lie because this is the game they played. They will, like, just the way I phrase it, congressional trading should be banned, right? And also cilantro. And they go, yeah, of course, no congressional stock trading. Great. Breaking news, 98% of people want to ban cilantro. Mm-hmm. They did vote for it. It said, see Addendum A, and Addendum A was there, and it explained to everybody, but they did not read it. But then I can claim, look at the poll results.
It's one of the biggest legislative tricks. You know, when I'm in some of these battles, you know, the Save the Puppies Act.
Yeah, right.
And it's you
it
know,
bans dogs.
and you're like, you know, how do you? I mean, you know, the biggest thing we run into problems with is voting against budgets. Like Sabatini, that's how they knocked him in Florida. He voted against a budget. So, and it was Ron DeSantis's budget. And so the establishment Republicans ran all these ads, and he's anti-cop. He's anti-firefighter. He's anti-police, anti-kids. He voted against the budget.
That's 100% a result of omnibus bills and stuff like that. If you just have bills that are single issue bills, you take the ability of lawmakers to do that to each other away, and that's beneficial to the electorate. But the lawmakers will never do it because it takes away the ability for them to slime their opponent.
Idaho. I'll make a quick comment on this. Idaho just led on this. It's the first time we've seen states do this. Probably the best budget reform. If you're really looking to avoid, Tim, what you said about like these misnaming bills, they just set up what they call maintenance bills in Idaho. So they have to fund all the basics of government with a very single subject, straightforward, here's what we're voting on. Then when you want to do all the fluff, when you want to do all the, you know, dessert and these extra things and all the BS, that's where you have to vote separately. So just for the viewers out there, check out Idaho. They're really, really leading on this. I'm hoping other states pick it up, but it kind of it bans almost the omnibus, so they can't say we're against all of these things.
What do you call it, a utility bill?
They call it the maintenance bills.
Maintenance.
So I might be getting that wrong, but what they did was they pretty much broke it. It's honestly what Congress is supposed to do, right? An appropriations process where you vote on actual appropriations across instead of these just continuous CRs that fund everything, which is the uniparty's dream. Right, we know that. Once again, Democrats get all their state, you know, welfare spending, all domestic. Republicans get all their military spending. They sit on the floor, they argue at each other, they go behind the closed doors, shake the hands. We get screwed. They pass the budgets. It's all these CRs and omnibuses.
Well, Thomas Massey was on last week. You've worked with Thomas before, and he was talking about the rules. You vote on the rules, and then you vote on the bill.
Right.
It's just prolific. The episode's incredible. I don't want to take up too much time now talking about it, but it's pretty dirty because people will vote against the rules, and they'll be like, "I didn't vote against the bill.
Yeah,
I just voted against some."
Those who know the rules have an advantage over those who don't. And I always tell people the procedural tricks. If you ever think you're making progress in a state, you know, you really aren't until you control the procedure.
This is actually a good reason to think very carefully before you just do, kick the bums out kind of voting. It's better to get rid of the bureaucracy than it is to get rid of legislators that know how, the sausage is made. If you've got a legislator that's well versed in how things get done, not particularly because they've been there and have been able to get around rules and stuff like that, but if they know how to work with other politicians to get things done, they can be valuable in helping to achieve your ends, even if your ends are to roll back the size of government. When you have legislators in Congress that don't even know how the government works. It's part of our problem. The problem in the United States, and I know this is really a volatile thing to say, but the biggest problem the United States has is the electorate. The biggest political problem we have is an uninformed electorate that behaves or thinks they're informed because the government has been telling them, you're informed if you listen to us and you should vote the way that we tell you.
So we had a super chat. I was just fact checking. Jimmy Joe says, is there a theater space in your plan for Martinsburg yet? Something that could accommodate a large interactive show? You know, this plan that we have is going to require substantial investment beyond our capabilities. We certainly have tremendous capabilities here at Timcast, for which we have purchased the largest building, I believe, in downtown Martinsburg. I could be wrong. As for the theater, there's a theater. They hosted an all-age drag show a couple of years ago, and people were very, very pissed off about it. They did. It was, if you were 17 or under, you needed an adult with you, but apparently minors were still allowed in. And last year, during Pride, they had a drag show with children on stage next to our building, which led to a huge issue and scandal. And we threatened to pull our investment completely out of the city because Berkeley County allows drag shows with kids, and Jefferson County, which is Charlestown, does not. And Charlestown is closer anyway. So it's a lot easier for people who are in the DC area or, Baltimore, or even coming from Philly. It's a couple hours drive, even Pittsburgh. From Pittsburgh, it's probably easier to get to Martinsburg. But Charlestown outright has an ordinance being like, no. And Charlestown's been very proactive on stop doing this stuff to kids. Berkeley County, however, seem to have no problem with it. So I've complained to state government. I'm like, it's already illegal on the books to do this. It violates 3 or 4 different laws. And I'm like, but you have no law enforcement apparatus? And I'm supposed to invest all this money? I'm supposed to advocate that we're going to come to this city? I'm supposed to ask people to invest in buying this stuff? And this is what's going on? And the general response I got when seeking advice on the issue was, we're going to take it over and we are going to be the ones to stop the depravity. And I said, okay. So we're going to have our monthly event, and it's going to be family friendly. And when we do Cast Brew coffee, when it's set up, we're going to have Saturday morning cartoons, we call it, where early in the morning, parents can come with their kids so the kids can interact socially. There will be breakfast, and that's our big mission, to play cartoons that are approved by the families, that are family friendly, educational, and not whacked out, weird, far left insanity. Because the people who live in Martinsburg, who have lived there for a long time, are upset these things are happening. But what we're told is that younger people who can't afford to live in the DC area or in Frederick are moving to Martinsburg where it's cheaper, and they're bringing with them the cult. And so we're going to say no to that. That's the plan, baby.
No Tom and Jerry, though, on Saturday morning. It's too violent.
I'm not interested in Tom and Jerry. It's nonsense.
No, I wasn't allowed to watch it growing up. It's too violent. Them or Three Stooges.
It's just nonsense. Tom and Jerry doesn't do anything.
Hitting each other with hammers. My mom didn't want us to punch each other, so we never did.
Yeah, no.
We weren't exposed to that crap.
I think we'll take a look at Bentkey, and we'll see the offerings they have for educational programs.
Those old Looney Tunes are really good, too, from the 50s and 60s.
I think Chip Chilla and the shows that Bentkey has are going to be much better. Much better. And the Daily Wire knows what they're doing, and we would love to promote their offerings for family-friendly content and children's content, and we want to show that off, and it makes it easy for us too. Buy a subscription, pay a license fee to Daily Wire so that we can have it at our venue or whatever. I'm sure they'd be more than happy. I'm pretty sure I've already talked to them about it. They're excited, and we're gonna expand this. Hopefully, we get 100 Cast Brews in a couple years, and we have Saturday morning cartoons where families can hang out. Community building exercises. People are meeting their neighbors. They're sharing ideas, and this helps people organize and push back against the cult.
It would be super sweet to think you parents take their kids to a coffee shop where they can have breakfast and watch cartoons, and parents can have obviously you get too many kids in there, it's gonna be a madhouse, but still it'd be kind of neat.
It will be, but the idea is, and we have multiple floors, so we might extend it to the second floor. But imagine the parents come. The kids are all interacting and they're playing with each other and whatever games they're playing. And the parents are sitting around and one parent says, did you see this new bill they're trying to do to make non-citizens into soldiers? No, I didn't see that. What was it? Let me show you my phone. Wow, what can we do? When you put these people together, they will organize. And that is the path towards building community, stabilizing our culture, and making this country better and stronger. We need to know who our neighbors are. We need to unite with the neighbors we agree with. because together, apes together strong. That's right.
Very strong.
Very strong. All right. T-Rex Pet Shop says, we're planning to open the first T-Rex Pet Shop in Newport, Tennessee. If that does well, you might actually see us at the anti-Times Square. For now, keep ordering online to be delivered. Tim and Ian, what do you like about the site? What could we do better? You know what we want to do? We want to get Seamus some like good raw meat cat food. And I think he's just going to be way better off if he's eating that instead of the cat food we feed him now. And so
really good pet food, is that what you said?
yeah, I was thinking about ordering like because you get like that raw meat cat food.
Yeah,
Like,
get the best.
get the best stuff. Yeah,
It's all about.
just only the best for Seamus.
That's what you get. That's like the.
I'm talking
when
about
you get
Seamus.
rich.
I'm talking
That's
about
why.
Seamus. I'm talking about Seamus 1, not Seamus 2.
Yeah, Seamus 2 can eat Cheerios.
Yeah, I don't care.
I mean, I
Seamus
prefer
2,
he eats healthy food, but
Seamus 2 eats Cheerios with half and half. I mean, I got to be honest, it sounds pretty good. Like,
Sugar.
heavy
man.
fat and sugar. It's like having ice cream for breakfast. No, Seamus 1 is the cat.
I like T-Rex Pet Shop. That's t-rexpets.com, I believe, and I really like the video that plays when you load up.
What can you do better? You can open in Martinsburg, and no, I certainly
I got
think
a widget that didn't load on Brave.
the important thing right now is, you know, there are businesses shutting down in Martinsburg, West Virginia. There was like a game hangout club went out of business in like 2 months. I don't even know what happened. The diner went out of business, and I'm like, no, we're turning this thing around. We're coming in monthly events in Martinsburg. It's the place to be. You want to be there. You want to be hanging out at Cass Brew Coffee. That's the hot spot. And next up, Cousin T's Diner. You want real pancakes? Cousin T's Diner, baby. But we have Terrence is coming this week. We got to talk to him about it and figure out where we're at. I don't know what Jack Posobiec's plan is for the family pizza restaurant, but I'd love to have a family style pizza restaurant like we used to have with Pizza Hut and the book club and all that stuff. That's the mission. Wholesome, family, friendly, good morals, hard work, good ethics. Keeping the kids safe. Let's go. Kane Abel says, Tim, keep the business up in New York. If they're a good company, values and more, keep the business, deal with them. Do not let good businesses go out of business.
I kind of agree with that.
I agree too. And I just felt like I really, really want to divest from New York as an F you to New York. But I don't know how saying F you to a really good business partner like actually accomplishes anything other than I'm not going to be hurting the state of New York by canceling a distribution deal. You know what I mean?
Did you guys see that Remington pulled out? That just broke
Yeah,
during the
That
show?
actually happened
I
in the.
thought that was a while ago.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
in
was it?
2021.
Oh, they're putting it out. Like,
Yeah, someone put it on breaking and it's spinning around. I shared a link from 2021, but Remington moved out. Gun manufacturers have been leaving the North. Smith & Wesson left Massachusetts last year.
Springfield.
crazy.
Didn't
Yeah.
they leave Massachusetts?
Yeah.
That is heartbreaking. I am offended by that.
I took my very first permit test at the Smith & Wesson in Springfield, Massachusetts.
I'm offended by Massachusetts and what they've done to the historic armories. I mean,
Springfield
the
Armory.
American Revolution started because the Crown tried to seize the guns of the American colonists, and that triggered the Battle of Lexington and Concord. Mm-hmm. And that was a full year and a month before the Declaration of Independence. And now, because of these psychopaths, it's almost like the Crown won. They're like, we're taking all your freedoms from you.
kills me to see some of these cities with such rich history that are just like being run by people that have no respect for it.
All right. Betorn, is that what it says? Tim, think it through. New York will have to have seized properties appraised for auction sale, revealing Trump and the banks were right on their value to appeal. Are you going to switch to Super Chat with like option? I don't know what that is. What is Super Chat with like option? I can click like on the Super Chats right now. I don't know.
Oh yeah, people can like super chats.
I don't know.
That's a new.
No, I don't think they'll auction Trump's building. They will seize it and give it to illegal immigrants. It's not a joke. It's what they're going to do. They're going to seize Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue and they're going to convert it into a migrant housing facility.
Yep.
They will shut down the Trump steak shop, the ice cream parlor, put everybody out of work. They'll get rid of the luxury stores and they will turn Trump on Fifth Avenue into migrant housing.
Give the taco bowls to the immigrants.
That's right.
I cannot like super chats, so maybe you need to turn on as the admin, turn on a setting so people can start liking our super chats.
I don't know. I can click like. I don't know how to do that, but we'll take a look. KCB says, you guys might know the law better than me, but couldn't Trump now sue all the banks that lent him money for not doing responsible due diligence? Insurance companies too. No, because the argument is he is at fault for defrauding them. So they're allegedly the victims, despite the fact they said they're not victims and they want to do business with Trump again. Worst victims ever.
Right.
But Trump might win on appeal. However, I still think they're going to try. Look, this is what they did to Alex Jones. They said he defamed these families. They then said, provide us documents. They then said, Alex Jones has never given us the documents. Alex Jones said, yes, I did. I gave them everything. They said, no, you didn't, and you'll be found in default unless you do. His lawyers were like, we gave you everything. What more? We can't give you anything else. And they were like, default, you lose. Done. Now we'll fight. Now we'll determine damages. This is the game they're playing. These judges are corrupt. They are as crooked as they could come. The judge in New York City is the definition of corruption. When you open the dictionary in 50 years and look up the word corruption, there will be a picture of the judge. Is Engeron, right?
Yeah.
That's the guy who smiled at the camera.
And the worst part is the guy, like the guy's clearly, it's not just like monetarily motivated, right? It's not like he's like being bribed. The corruption isn't so that way he can get money. It's literally ideologically motivated. If it was money, Donald Trump could just go ahead and be like, here, I'll pay you off. Then someone's paying you off. I can, if that's where our politics were at, then you could do that. But you can't do that with this because it's ideological. It's, I don't like you. You are offensive to me because of what I believe you are. And so I'm going to use the authority of government to punish you for being you.
Status, man.
All right.
Status.
My friends, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Head over to timcast.com for a particularly spicy members-only show coming up in just a few minutes. You don't want to miss it. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally everywhere at Timcast. Cliff, do you want to shout anything out?
Sure. A big project I'm working on right now is something in Pennsylvania called the PA Chase. Folks can check it out at pachase.com, partnering with Turning Point and some of the folks out there to run the 50-day, you heard me, 50-day, 50 ballot chase operation because Pennsylvania is lunatics and they now allow for this this crazy process. So anyway, pachase.com, we're pounding on 500,000 doors. The Republican establishment has failed our Liberty candidates in the general elections. And so we have launched this program. We need door knockers, we need volunteers, and we need people to fund it. So pachase.com, hoping we can make Pennsylvania competitive again. And then on Twitter, at Cliff Maloney Jr.
I am Phil That Remains official on Twix. I am Phil. No, look at that. I messed it up. I'm Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. You can follow us on Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, YouTube, the internet. And don't forget, the left lane is for crime.
Is that because you pass the other cars and you have to go faster than the speed limit?
That is because the passing lane is for passing, and people sit there and they go the speed limit, or they just stay in the left lane and they go slow.
It's illegal.
Yeah. It is illegal.
So
yes.
I was in Colorado and I was in the left lane for too long. I got pulled over and I got a ticket for it.
Yep.
You're not allowed to do that.
Saw a video of that too.
God bless that police officer that did that, Tim. I'm sorry that it happened to you, but the police officer
$50.
The police officer did the right thing.
Yeah. Give him a nice thank you. And to you, thank you for coming and watching. It was a great time. Cliff, it's great to see you as always, my man. Good to see you again, even though it's the first time we've met. And it's going to be see you again soon,
Real
dude.
fun time.
Everyone else, have a great night. I'm Ian Crossland. I'll see you later.
And I am Serge.com. Thanks very much for coming. Appreciate it, man. Let's just get on the app show.
We'll see you all over at timcast.com. Front page in a couple minutes. Thanks for hanging out.